I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is a special City Council workshop meeting. It's Wednesday, July 26, 2023. If everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of council, thank you for your time this evening. We are going to go through the budgets as we complete each department, if you will. Then we'll pause, take any questions you've got of that department, one by one, the department heads, or as is the case, our folks from Pinnacle will come up, present their budgets to you, and then we'll see what questions you've got for them before we move on to the next. All right? So with that, David, if you want to come join us up at the table, please, sir. Get them the mic, Joey, beside you there. All right. Name, address, and social security number, and no, I'm just kidding. Mother's maiden name.
Mother's maiden name.
So we'll start with the golf budget. Just so council is aware, what's up on our big screens here is what is on our YouTube channel, so people will be able to see the numbers very clearly, but it does match up with what you have in your council packets. So, David, I'll turn it over to you.
No, thanks for having us, and we're excited about it. Another year. It's kind of crazy that we're moving so quickly along, right? And we've made a lot of good progress, obviously, as we all know, particularly this year with projects. You know, we're wrapping up a lot of projects, you know, throughout the property. Throughout the maintenance facility, up at the clubhouse with the new kind of event lawn, beer garden and such, and new pad up there for lots of great activities. New cart fleet will be in next week, thankfully, hopefully. And so we're working through really a lot of neat things going on out there, and a lot of good stuff on the docket to try to continue to improve that asset. From a business standpoint, you know, the budget that we prepared for next fiscal year, and I'll walk through some of these, you know, pretty quickly, is, you know, off of what we budgeted this fiscal year. We've had a lot of really good things happen to us this year. Lots of golf courses around Charlotte have been closed for regrassing of greens or renovation projects and such, which has been very helpful to business. We had a really nice mild winter, which always helps. And so we budget based on historical norms, and so wintertime we're going to budget to have a regular winter. For instance, if it's really warm, we're going to do better than plan. If it's really cold, we miss, but we might not miss by a whole lot. And so, and same thing for next fiscal year. All these golf courses are coming back online, and so we want to try to, you know, account for that in the budget. But we're really excited about where we are from a business standpoint, what the business is generating, and we'll walk through some changes this year, which are you all have asked, which we're really excited to be able to accommodate this year, and then obviously look through any questions. But from a revenue standpoint, we are budgeting $2,109,000, and I might be a little bit off, but our first year here, I believe we budgeted for $1,070,000. So it's over $1 million more in revenue over the course of time that we've been able to do. As compared to this fiscal year, we budgeted $1,866,000. So it's a $242,000 increase from this current fiscal year, but we're trending above that. So that's why we feel like that 13% is doable, because we're already making that number. Merchandise COGS is just what it is. It's a factor of how much business we do sell in merchandise. So that's a factor that will go up as revenue goes up, as a cost of merchandise. So you can see that is up as well, 105,000 compared to the 94 we budgeted this fiscal year. And then payroll, we're hit with, not unlike anybody else out there, our payroll costs are going up. We're managing it the best we can. We've got a lot of really good people here that are very dedicated and very committed, but at the same time, you know, they want to be compensated. So we were doing reviews and we're working with people as best we can, but we're still in a really good ballpark range for labor as percentage of revenue for sure. We're in a really good spot there. We added, from a tennis standpoint, we added a little bit of subsidy in the wintertime for instruction. And so that's why that increases the number that it is. It's a little bit, from a percentage-wise, it looks big at 25%, but it's a $2,700 increase. So that's why that's sitting there. And then from an expense standpoint, really across the board of some ups and downs, but we're budgeted to do 537,000. And this year we budgeted 534, so we're holding pretty firm on expenses. Again, it's based on how we're trending and what projects we need to do and what things we need to do on the golf course. Fixed cost, liability insurance is going up. It's been increased. You will see in here a bond payment from the golf course of $250,000. Back to the city to help pay for the bond. That is new. We have not done that before, and that's pretty cool to be able to put that in there and
That
have
represents right at about 50% of what that annual bond cost is.
Yeah, and so it's a big number, but the golf course is able to generate that. We've built up sufficient reserve. Even if we don't hit this budget, then we're okay with that. Loan interest has increased. We're taking on a new golf cart loan for the new fleet that's coming in. That's a higher cost, and so the interest cost is going up as well. And then from a loan principal payments, there's 3 loans. There's a golf course equipment loan that we've had in place. This is the last year for that. Be the last payment for the equipment loan. We have the new golf cart loan, which will be hitting the fiscal year, and we have the last 2 payments of the Cove irrigation loan that we took out 8 years ago, I think now. So we make our normal payment of $33,000, but the last payment of that is due in September of this fiscal year. So we actually have 2 payments on that loan that we'll make, but it'll be done at the end of the next fiscal year, which is great. But that also frees up $33,000 of cash flow that we haven't had in the next fiscal year. So we're excited about that. So from a cash flow standpoint, we had budgeted this fiscal year to do 194,000. This next year, we're budgeting to do 30,000. So obviously less, but we're adding the bond payment, we're adding the new cart loan, we're adding the extra irrigation loan payment in there. So all of that's being able to be absorbed and still be positive cash flow from putting money back into our reserve account, which obviously we've been building up, and we're proud of that, and we're able to use those monies for some capital projects and such as approved by you all. And so it's 35,000 rounds of golf, 850, 799 more than we budgeted this year. We're trending higher than that, obviously, but we do have some headwinds we think coming with the golf courses reopening that have been closed. We're not planning on a beautiful warm winter. We're factoring in a normal winter. So this is not a pie in the sky plan by any stretch of the imagination. That's like we're going to have to hit everything perfect to make this budget. We feel like this is a really good, reasonable plan that we'll make and be able to make these payments and continue to put money into the reserve account for the asset.
Council, before David starts talking about their proposed capital items that they're wanting to cash fund, any questions for them budget-wise on the operational budget side?
Excuse- I got a couple. All right, I saw that you're predicting 800 more rounds, but you're also predicting a 40% increase in gross. How does that equate?
On the gross,
Why, I mean, how's your gross going to go up 400%, but you're only doing 800 more rounds? I mean, 40%.
The dollars per round are higher than
Just-
what we had planned this year. Yeah, and a lot of it's from, we've had price increases, and we have price increases built in to the new plan as we need to, as our expenses continue to rise. And the business model right now is less discounted rounds of golf. We're trying to charge a fair and reasonable price, which we do. We're very reasonable and probably on the low end in the marketplace.
You're very competitive.
But we're not giving a lot of the low-end discounts, and so the dollars per round are much higher. So when you factor in those rounds, not just the 800, but the 35,000 on more revenue per round, it equates to the increase.
And the only other question I had is, I know it's very limited in space with the space you have, the improvements that we just made, and croquet. But I mean, is there room or budget to improve the practice facility from what it is? I mean, it's just,
Yeah, that practice facility is just such a difficult piece of property to start
it
with.
is, but I mean,
Yeah.
considering how well
Yeah.
the course looks, how well manicured it is, how great shape it is, I mean, everything about the course, I mean, you've got a place to have events, you got a great place to have tournaments, and you do it well. And then that little practice facility just, to me, kind of brings everything down. I was just hoping there's a way
Yeah.
to utilize the space to make it better.
Potentially, yeah. It's all in the angles of that tee. As we've looked at a lot of different ways to shift the tee, make it bigger, maybe horseshoe it around, but then you bring in some of the launch angles and some of the studies of where that ball's going that could bring in some of the adjacent property owners in place that we felt like this wasn't the right thing. We've just resodded the teeing area. All the grass tee's been resodded. We bought new mats for there, which were desperately needed. We have in the plan for next year to go in and clear out all the underbrush and limb up all the trees on both sides of that range. We're losing a significant amount of range balls due to what's in those woods, and so we like to get in there and really go
You don't get to keep those, Tom.
and
They
clean
weren't yours.
that out.
You paid
Yeah.
$5 for a whole bucket.
Yeah.
Yeah, just ask Fred.
And we can continue to
Let
look at
Scoot
that for
know.
sure, yeah. Yeah, we've looked at expanding that teeing area, make it bigger, taking out the trees on the left, kind of close to the clubhouse, but that angle is, we've been uncomfortable with where the balls are gonna go, from there.
What
Yeah.
about the chipping area and stuff like that? Have you considered anything over there?
Yes, that chipping area, we are going to give a facelift. And that's just in the operating budget. It's not a capital item.
Any other questions before they get into capital?
Excuse me, can you tell me what's happening with the change in tennis there? Looks like your tennis revenue is budgeted.
It is.
Less
It's
than last time.
trending lower.
Are we lower in membership?
We're lower in memberships this year than we were prior year, and so this budget is keeping that consistent. Obviously,
Okay.
we've got a lot of plans and things in motion to try to increase that. The tennis is budgeted to make $7,200 as a department. So the percentages get kind of skewed when we look at them. This year, I think we budgeted for it to do $13,000 or $14,000, so we're a little bit less than that. Much better than we were. We were unprofitable there for
Right.
years. And so, but that's the reason. We kept it consistent with our numbers that we currently are doing for membership over there. Obviously, we're going to work with the Tennis Association to try to continue to grow that membership. But we didn't want to put that on paper when we don't have it going on right now.
Thank you.
Any other questions, council? All right.
What you want?
David, if you'll walk them through your capital project list.
Yes, for the next fiscal year, there's a few projects, and again, projects out on the golf course they're a lot of them are brought up as the year goes on too, and we'll continue to do that. But from a current need, we have some equipment we'd like to purchase, a tractor, another Ventrac mower, with all the hills that we have out here. The one that we have is just gold, and so we'd like to buy another one. Sod cutter, fairway unit, from an equipment standpoint. And then, we're gonna need to rebuild the pump with the irrigation. It is towards the end of its useful life, so we like to go ahead and tackle that before it's a need. We can extend it maybe a couple of years, but when that thing goes, it goes. We'd rather get in front of it. And then the transfer pump house exterior is, as we're moving through the kind of our charge of cleanup TGK, that building is really bad. So we'd like to improve that.
And this is the one that's down on number 10 on the left side.
That's right, yeah. Continued cart path repair, this is money that we put in the capital budget every year and will continue to do so. If we took care of all of it, it would be a significant number, so we're just trying to chip away at it each year and get the worst parts. You know, our tees are good, but they're starting to become unlevel, so we'd like to start with a championship tees and level those to just provide a better experience for the consumer. For the practice facility, we'd like to limb up the trees, underbrush, really get in there. We're spending, right now, I think the budget's $24,000
$3,000 every 2 months.
on range balls, just because we're losing so many of them. And so based on our revenue, we should be spending about $12,000 on range balls. So we're double what we should, and it's just a result of all the underbrush up there. So we'd like to get in there and clean it out. You all approved, and we've just gotten in. It's arrived. We haven't installed it yet, but we will be installing new hole signage around the golf course. When that goes up, the other signage around the clubhouse is going to look as bad as it is. And so we would like to replace the other signage around the clubhouse and get everything up to par. The tennis facilities, the light pole, we don't have a number on this yet, but light poles, paint the light poles is a request, coming from there. They're in pretty bad visual shape. They work, they just don't look great. And then the fountains we are currently working on, and Mr. Mayor, you can elaborate on that, but there's been a request to put some ponds in to have it paid for, and so we're looking into those the fountains in the ponds now around the golf course, which will look great. So all that in.
It's a good visual aesthetic, but it also will help with algae.
Help with the
that builds
algae
up
and
things
filtration
like
and all that stuff, which would be great. So we don't have the last two yet, but the others are $238,000 total. In the past, we have always borrowed money for equipment and that's why we're paying off these equipment loans. Our recommendation this year, we've built up a significant reserve. We are comfortable paying for all these improvements out of our reserve account in cash and not taking out any more debt. Continue to pay down debt and use the benefit of what we've been able to build up in this golf course. We've got close to $1 million in the operating account, and we've got another $1 million we've put in a money market account. So we are in good shape from a cash standpoint to use cash to continue to improve this asset without taking on any more debt.
So what questions do y'all have on the capital side of things?
The Kubota tractor, we had one burn up in a shed, 3 months ago? 2 months ago? Was that one for the golf course? No.
That was ours.
That was city,
That's the
okay.
city's, yeah.
Okay.
That was ours.
Yeah.
And the insurance ain't giving us a whole lot of money for
We
it.
can have that one?
Yeah.
I'll cross that off the list.
Just needs some new
Just
paint.
needs a new seat,
Just need to,
no problem. A seat and some tires.
I mean, obviously getting equipment, we've still ordered from you all's approval for this fiscal year. We're still waiting on several pieces of equipment. It just takes a long time to get in, but anyway.
So tell me a little bit about this fairway unit.
It's just, the one that we have is on its last leg, and so it's just time to replace it. To mow the fairways. It's the big unit to mow the fairways. It's a used unit at 50,000. A new unit's gonna be over
Well,
100.
that's why I was looking, because the new unit's right around 150 grand.
Yeah, it's 110, 115,000 for what we need. You'll go up to
Yeah.
as much as you want, but we feel like we always have bought new greens mowers and used other mowers. And when a greens mower gets to the end of its useful life, then that becomes a T-mower. So we move it down the list. But a greens mower, we buy new, because that is the most important thing that we do. But all the others, we can get by with used equipment. And we have a good mechanic, take care of it, it'll last a long time. And so that's why we recommend doing used.
Okay. The fountains for the course ponds, Jim, what we're looking at is just feeding power to those pumps or to the fountains themselves. Been approached by several citizens they want to buy the fountains themselves and just have us power them up and install them. And they were willing to come out of pocket with the money for those fountains. And like we were saying, it helps with the algae. We were looking at several options for the algae. Copper sulfate is not a very eco-friendly thing to have to put into places. Southern Naiad, it takes a lot to get Southern Naiad out, but if you have just a little bit of movement, a little aeration in the water, it helps to get rid of all that stuff, and helps to get rid of the films that form in the evening times. So with that, you're still going to fertilize, you're still going to have that kind of runoff and everything, but we don't want that running off and running into the lake, that kind of thing. So trying to come up with a more economically and environmentally viable option for our ponds. And thankfully, we've got some citizens that really would want to step up to the plate and help us out. So that's where that whole pond fountain thing came from. So if you got any more questions on all that kind of good stuff, just let me know.
Just a couple of quick questions. If you could give us, even a shot from the hip, an idea of what you think the painting the tennis poles and the fountain might cost us. 'Cause we're gonna,
He was supposed to, I went through Scott Painting, and not Scott, Callahan Painting, and I haven't got a quote. He came out Monday. He said he was gonna send it to me Tuesday, still haven't got it. So,
Okay.
of course,
I'm not sure I could even
you
guess
can
on
go high end. We know he read
Sure.
all the stuff, and I'm like, we don't need all of that. We do need, they need to be, there's rusted, so they need to go through, clean all that up, and then paint it.
I got a really tall kid,
We can probably put him just on a step stool and get
way
that.
up there.
In that case, it'd be a few $100. I don't have a guess. I really.
And there's
but
not
it
that
would-
many light poles either, so.
It's not an extraordinary amount of money.
My
It's-
guess would be you're less than 200,000 for all of that. With painting the poles. Your biggest expense there
Is the
is gonna be the
fountains?
lift, the lift rental to paint the poles.
I'll
Your
split
your
it with
biggest your biggest expense out of all that is, your biggest expense in all that is gonna be running the power, to those, in close proximity to the ponds, to where the fountain, those turbidity fountains can be installed.
so you're thinking south of 200 for the poles
Yes.
and the fountains?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions on capital or anything for golf?
August. Oh, the green fees will go up $2-3. Cove's gonna go up $4. We're at that stage now. The Cove's gotten a lot better. We're way below market on that, and then memberships are gonna be probably in that 7-8% range. That's at the end of the year, in January, when that happens. And so we're gonna go up and move up rates in August ahead of the fiscal year for daily fee golf. And that's typically when it used to be you raise them in April 1st. But now with the Ultra Dwarfs and with where we are with golf, we're raising them in August when the golf course is just perfect. That's the time to do it, and that's ahead of the winter time. It gets you through now an increased rate that becomes our winter rate. And then we can also
When
do
they see it,
Yeah.
you're there, it looks beautiful.
Yeah, and but it's a few dollars. It's not we're at 72 now on the weekends is our high-end rate, and we'll go to 75, which is still well below our competitors.
We'll be getting closer to Fort Mill.
Yeah.
Springfield's still gonna be on the higher end, but we'll be
Yeah.
right there with Fort Mill.
Yeah, so, there's courses in Charlotte now gone to $99.
And they're not
So
worth it.
we're not suggesting that we do that. We don't need to. But we do need to keep moving it just to keep, covering our expenses that keep, golf carts used to be $4,200 a car, now they're $8,000. So, it's not getting any cheaper. And they're not gonna bring them down.
No.
So, anyway, but we appreciate, obviously you all supporting what we're doing, and we're excited about where we are. And obviously, it is to continue to keep improving the asset, make it better. We don't want to be comfortable just because we've had a few good years. Let's keep pushing and keep making it better. We're known for the quality, and we want to keep doing that. That's what's supposed to bring in the revenue.
Did you get us a number as far as what we're thinking we're going to be able to increase the rounds with just the golf carts?
I don't have a number, but the Cove 9 is where we can really drive the more rounds, because what we've been doing is blocking tee times on the Cove to make sure we have the carts available for the main 18. Now, we have temporary cars in here now, a loaner, to get us to the 100, and so we've been running, I don't, it'd just be a guess, obviously, but I do think we're gonna run,
Probably another 30 or 40 on the Cove,
yeah,
I would think, per day.
yeah, I think so. So you're looking at, 1,200 rounds of golf over there.
I'm just thinking the
1,400
turnaround time on
rounds.
our carts, plus these carts, they operate on an extended time, so you could get 18 and 9 out of them.
Totally.
Oh, yeah, no,
Abs-
you can get 18,
That's what's
19 out.
beautiful about the lithium and the AC and all that. It's
Yeah,
a,
you won't have to go back and put, like these,
Yeah.
you have to go charge for another 30 minutes when they come in. This is just
yeah.
clean
Turn
them
and
off,
burn.
bring them back up there.
And as we talked about, the bodies of these carts are gonna wear out before the batteries do. So we'll still be flipping in 3 or 4 years. Our plan is to do it in
Yeah.
4 years at this roll instead of 3, because the batteries are gonna last longer. But when you get to 4 years on a busy facility such as TKK, just the seats and the windshields and the body gets to the point where the presentation doesn't match what we're offering, so.
Thank you, guys. You've always done a great job.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
John, I think I have one comment. On the capital projects list, we can use operating cash. I was talking to David before, and we don't have to touch the savings account there.
Okay,
Yeah, we're good there.
good,
I think that we-
awesome. Any other questions, guys? All right, David, Todd, thank you, guys.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Good to see you. Thanks so much.
I'll see you Sunday. I'll see you Saturday.
All right. Council, I'll just run through a couple of quick things. Not going to spend a whole lot of time on this section, but just to cover budget summaries. In your general fund, you're looking at revenues at $16,283,004, expenses at $16,048,602, putting you at a net positive of $234,402. Beach and Swim Center, which we'll get into after the general fund, showing that as a balanced budget. But when we get to that part, we'll discuss, it is going to need some assistance for some needed capital stuff from general fund, there's no way it'll ever be able to afford to be able to take on. And we'll get into more details on that as we get to it. In our utility department with TCUD, you're looking at revenues of $7,235,380, over expenses of $6,990,453. So a net positive of $244,927 to the good there. That is correct. That is correct. Your stormwater, we always try to look at that as a balanced budget. We want to spend every dollar that comes in to try to get as much done as we can. So you're looking at a budget of $776,727. On our events, again, that's something we always bring forth as a balanced budget of $213,521. And then finally, in our H-Tax, $399,220 over expenses of $387,863, leaving it with a net positive of $11,357. Just a quick synopsis on I'll skip the department side of it because our department heads are eager to come up and present their budgets. But just looking at the funds, you're looking at a 16% increase overall in your general fund from this fiscal year to next fiscal year. Beach and Swim Center actually down, and a lot of that's just because of our membership totals. Last year we had the most we've ever had. Didn't get there this year, but it's still more than what we've ever had other than last year. So it was a positive year, just didn't hit the numbers that we thought it was going to hit based on what it did the previous fiscal year. In TCUD, you're seeing about a 15% overall increase in the budget there. Stormwater at 20% higher over this year. Events and tourism at 8% and H-Tax at 5%. So it's just a quick down and dirty summary of our overall funds and budgets. The capital stuff, I'm just going to highlight quickly. When the department heads come up, they're going to get in more detail and be ready to answer any questions you may have on those during their department presentation. But in Public Works, 2 replacement trucks, pole barn for equipment storage, and a RTV, well, side-by-side. in law enforcement, replacement of the in-car cameras in our patrol cars, a software update on our Motorola radios, and then we also have a replacement of radios, and then 4 replacement patrol cars. The good thing is we did get an allocation from the state, so we did not have to put the body cams in there. We've got $160,000 that's supposed to be coming from the state that'll cover the replacement of all of our body cams. So we're very, very appreciative of our elected officials in the General Assembly for that. Fire services, I say they're only, council's already addressed one of them previously with the ladder truck, but what they're asking for out of this, again, is replacement radios. Motorola's got a pretty good gig where once they say we're done servicing these radios, they turn them off and you have to buy new ones. We have researched other radios. Motorola is the best, for sure. So we're battling that in PD and in fire. In Parks and Recreation, a Sand Pro, a box loader equipment, piece of equipment, a redesign of the front fountain. We're excited to let Dustin tell you more about that. Trail lighting on the main pedestrian trail down TGK Drive. 1 new and 1 replacement truck, and then repaving the parking lot at Rundy. That parking lot, I've been here 23 years. That parking lot has never been repaved. It's if you went to the last concert and looked at it, it's time. It's going to get to gravel for too long. On the beach and swim center, repair of the pool deck is the big one. We got a lot of bad areas on that concrete. We've had several concrete experts come and look at it, and they've told us it's doing what it's supposed to do. I mean, it's cracking everywhere. They thought it would, the concrete should crack, but it's starting to get excessive. So needing to touch that up. The pool cover, the one we've got's the original one from when we first got the pool from the developer. Replacement for the pump for the wading pool, cover for the wading pool, replastering the wading pool. As you can tell, the wading pool needs some love. And then we've got to replace drain covers in the pool to stay in compliance with SEDHEC. And you can see the note there between what Beach and Swim Center has. It's about $169,508 short that it would need from general fund reserves if council approves. And then finally, 3 replacement maintenance trucks in TCUD. Your head count, as you've seen that as we've gone through, it's a total of 5. It's 4 in general fund, 2 in park maintenance, 2 in public works, and then 1 additional maintenance staff member in TCUD. And again, as the department heads come up, they'll talk to that, to each of those items in more detail. But I do want to say that, from what we've heard from council over the past 2 years, or year and a half of working with y'all, I do believe that not only with the capital stuff, but through the budgets in total, I think we are accomplishing the direction that we've received. We're not proposing taking on any new debt. We're down to 2 capital leases left. We've got this coming fiscal year and the next one, and those I think are eliminated. And that just leaves us with just the bond debt that we're slowly ticking down. Bob ran the analysis today. Our 8% debt limit is now up to $5.6 million and change, which is fantastic. For those that aren't sure what that is, we can only borrow up to 8% of what our budget, our assessments are. It wasn't that long ago that our debt limit, we couldn't borrow $1 million. And now it's up to 5.6 if needed. If the earth opens up and starts swallowing TGK, we can get quick access to 5.6 million if we need it. So it's a very, very good cushion on top of what we already have in cash reserves. The beautifying and our cleaning up TGK, we've got that in several areas that our department heads will talk through. The pole barn, That was I've heard that multiple times from council as far as making sure our equipment's protected and things like that. So very, very excited about this budget. I'm pretty sure I said this this time last year, but I'm going to say it again. This is by far the best budget that I have seen us as a staff bring forward to council in my time in TGK. So really excited. So without further ado, we'll jump into this. We'll go through revenues, take a quick pause, see what questions you got on revenues, and then we'll get going into our expenses. So as you look at our tax revenue projected for the coming year is $8,562,868. That's right at a 15% bump in tax revenues, and that's your auto, your property taxes, penalty, and delinquent taxes in there. Your license fines and fees, that's your franchise fees, court fines and fees, building inspection, business license, and impact fees. You're looking at $4,772,825 in projected revenues there. That's a modest 3% increase in those fees. I do want to call your attention, I probably don't have to, but significant decrease on the building inspection fees. Honestly, we're talking to the builders that we have and what their schedules are and what their projections are, and we're looking at approximately 144 new home permits over the course of that 12-month fiscal year. But last fiscal year, we hit 1.3 million, and we didn't have anything showing us that we weren't going to hit 1.3 million this year, and we're not. We're going to be well short of that 1.3 million. We could go over the 870, but based on analysis that Brian Wessinger put together for us, our building official, we feel very comfortable that with our new home starts, as well as your other permit fees like remodels, decks, fences, things like that, we feel a lot more comfortable on that 870 number based on what we've seen going through this year. So that's your real big deduct. I do want to call out the big jump in franchise fees. You've got your normal, what we've always collected franchise fee wise with Duke Energy, York Electric, and Comporium. Our utility department, utility budget has finally gotten to a healthy enough standpoint where we can begin doing a impact fee to the utility department, which is very commonplace in cities that are utility providers, and it's at 5%, just like all the other impact fees are. So, and that'll be a transfer from utilities into general fund as we get towards the tail end of the year. We've got a budgeted amount for it, but it'll be 5% of whatever those revenues end up being as we get into that. And Bob will make that journal entry and that transfer, as we get into September of next year. That's your license fines and fees. Your state shared revenue, that's your local government fund from the state, as well as we do collect, we get from Department of Revenue, alcohol tax. A portion of that comes back to us from folks that are selling alcohol here in the city. We also get some accommodations tax from some illegal Airbnbs. Before we find them and make them aware they're not allowed to do that, they've collected some revenues, and the state kindly sends those to us. So that's what those funds represent at $325,000. So you've got a 3% increase, again, in license fines and fees, and a anticipated 7% increase in revenues from and those revenues coming from the state. On recreation, it's $866,990. That's about an 11% increase in revenues. The tournament revenue, we've zeroed that out just to simplify the accounting. Those numbers are now included up in the rec revenue line item. So you see that that's jumped up by 29%. Anticipating modest growth. Hopefully it's modest in our participation. I don't know how many more we can actually accommodate based on what we had this past spring. So hopefully it's modest growth there and not as big as it was from fall to spring this past year. And then you've got all your tournament revenue in there. Thank you to those on council that had lots of conversations with Mr. Audette over the past year. And honestly, thank you to Mr. Audette for going back and battling for us. We got a nice, healthy uptick in the recreation revenue from York County by 23%. That 46,000 is probably one of the largest jumps we've had in that line item in quite some time. So appreciate y'all's efforts there as well as Mr. Audette's efforts. Our sponsorship revenue, basically just keeping more of it in general fund versus in the events budget. But we still are keeping some sponsorship dollars in there to help fund those events. So that's why you see such a nice jump there. Your park rental, keeping it the same. Based on what we're seeing out of concession revenue, which is down at Catawba Park, they are crushing it on the weekends, which is really, really nice. So modest uptick there of about $3,000. And that's your recreation revenue. As you move on down through the other revenues, really like that first line item, a $298,500 increase in interest earnings. Thank you, Mr. Barkin. Thank you, Mr. Barkin, for making those moves for us. So nice, healthy increase coming back to us. And that number could be low, to be quite honest. Right now, we're at 5.07% interest earnings. If that continues to climb, and I think we budgeted on 4.5%, give or take, I think. Did you do the full 5? Okay. That's a nice, healthy change. Your trash fees, part of that is just growth, the number of customers, but it also includes a 3% CPI increase that the contractor is allowed for by contract, and they are going to be taking that this coming year. They've seen their costs go up by 5 and 6%, but the contract does limit them to no more than 3%. So we got that notification there. You're talking about going from $17 to about $17.51. So you're not talking a monumental increase by any means. Some of the other line items I'll call your attention to. You see the sale of fixed assets there, increase over $10,000. If you'll recall back as I was highlighting the capital, we've got some replacement vehicles, and that's just based on what those average costs will be, or actual average revenues that we anticipate coming in on the resale of those things. Generally, we either put those on an auction site or we'll take them down to Rock Hill when they do an auction twice a year, and they are very gracious to allow us to bring our vehicles down there. Whoever buys it pays the auctioneer cost plus the monies, and Rock Hill sends those straight to us without taking any out of it. So we appreciate that partnership. And then the last two line items are two that I want to bring out. Those are new. Transfer from H-Tax for Catawba Park. That'll help go towards that bond payment along with impact fees that will pay the bond cost on Catawba Park. And then you've got the transfer from golf that David was mentioning earlier, $250,000, and that'll represent right at 50% of what that bond cost is on the golf course as we go forward. So glad to be able to put those things in there. So you're looking at total revenues again of $16,283,004, and that's overall that's about a 14% increase in revenues from this year going into next year. So any questions, discussion, or anything on the revenue side of things?
Question on the interest earnings, Bob. I think we may have talked about this, but just for clarification, since this is recorded, could you tell us if there's a limit on what we can put in that savings?
No limit.
There is no limit? And tell me about access to it. Once it's in there, how quickly can we get to it if we need it?
Less than a day.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Should we be looking at that?
Looking at what?
Putting more money in there for
We've
the interest earnings? You did?
Bob
Okay.
just put another $1 million in it yesterday.
Great.
Wasn't it $1 million?
Last week.
Last week, yeah.
Outstanding.
So
And he was smiling so big when he told me he did that.
yes, he was extremely excited.
That's great.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
But yeah, that state investment pool has been fantastic. Not only are the interest rates very sizable, but the transfer in, transfer out, very seamless. We can get access to it as soon as we need it. We've got some other funds that are in money market accounts, and they're, 4.5, give or take? Yep. Okay. So, and we can get access to those. So pretty much all of our reserve funds are making money for us at a pretty good clip, much more so than they ever have. So, yes. Any other questions on revenue? All right, we'll keep cruising along. I'll do council, and then I'll ask Judge Simpson to come up for municipal court. Really, your only change, your big change in council from an expense standpoint is on the election expense. We've got an election in November, and that will be our portion of it, our estimated portion of that. So it's usually anywhere between $7,000–8,000. The good thing is, with the filing fees having been increased prior to the last election, those fees help offset those election expenses. So that definitely helps out. But really, no other significant changes. You've got some reductions in there as far as like your group insurance, but that's because we do have one council member who's coming off for the group insurance come January. So that's why you see a reduction there. So your council projected expenses are at $71,840, and that's a 12% decrease overall, from this year to next year. Any questions there on the council budget? Okay, Judge, if you'll come join us, please. Next up will be municipal court.
Hi there, gentlemen. How you doing? All right. My budget is not hefty. And I'm asking for nominal increases. So there is an increase with supplies. That's for $1,500. That was from an email I got from IT that I will be needing a new desktop in the next fiscal year. So that's where that bump comes from. Travel and training went up a little bit just for the registration fees, hotel, gas, food, things of that nature. Budgeted for myself and the clerk. Nominal uptick in the cell phone. Saved some money with the video conferencing. I signed a new contract on that one. Everything else is pretty kind of about the same. That reimburse other governments is what we get from the state treasurer on what we need to pay.
Yep. And council, those three bottom line items, it's really a formula that's tied up to the fines and fees on the revenue.
Yes.
So as that number goes up, these numbers go up. Regardless of what the rumors are, when we write speeding tickets, it is not padding our budget. About 65
It's between 58 and 60%
goes back to
If
the
we get
state.
100, we pay out 50, 60.
Yep.
50 and 60.
And that helps fund the Criminal Justice Academy and that type thing. So, but the state tells us,
Victims assistance and things
this
like
is,
that.
this is how much you brought in, this is what you owe us.
Yes.
And actually, I think they do that through an automatic
Yes.
pool. So, but.
Is that consistent for all tickets, including parking tickets?
Now, your ordinance tickets, no.
Ordinance violation.
This is all on your, what's called your UTT tickets, your uniform traffic tickets. Any fines that are levied through the court based on that ticket, and once that disposition is entered in and it's auto-populated, it's just those. Now, your ordinance violation tickets, parking without a decal, things like that, that's not in there. None of that goes, all that stays here.
Correct.
I'm just curious, how often is that done? Is that monthly, quarterly, annually?
It's, every year, if I'm not mistaken.
Annually. So
Yes.
we hold the money for a year and then they say you owe us this?
Yes, sir.
No, sir?
Oh, am I wrong, Bob? I'm sorry.
Victims assistance is quarterly, reimbursement to other governments is monthly, public defender is quarterly.
Okay. I apologize.
Council, any questions for Judge Thompson? Cool. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
I mean, if you are good with budgets, we can stop. We can go ahead and go to the end. Admin. Your increases through here are relatively nominal. Office supplies, that's just looking at where we are and where we're trending. So you've got a nominal small uptick there. Some additional funds in travel and training with having Gretchen on board now with certain trainings and things like that for her, putting some additional funds in there for conferences and trainings so she can stay up to date on the latest and greatest. Your biggest uptick is down on the IT expense, and that is HR software. The ongoing maintenance of that is what that uptick is there. And then we've got some computers that we have to replace. I know Bob's has to be replaced and Dana's. Those computers have hit the end of useful life, and time to swap those out before they just completely die on us. And really, that's your major upticks there. I will tell you that on your salaries and wages, as we do every year during the budget process, we start looking at time allocation for staff and just rearranging some things. So you do have some salaries that have moved out of there, moved into development services and/or TCUD, just based on what those people are doing. And we evaluate that on an annual basis. Just like in Public Works, I think we're on a 70-30 split projected for this year between Public Works and Stormwater, because our Stormwater Department is also our Public Works Department. So to be quite honest with you, it should probably be 70% Stormwater, 30% Public Works. But Stormwater, if we did that, we wouldn't be able to do any Stormwater projects. And it just doesn't work. But trying to balance that time allocation through there. So that's your admin budget comes in at $926,779, or a modest 8% increase from this year to next year. And we'll be glad to answer any questions y'all have on the admin budget. Good? Okay. Moving right along. Susan, are you going to do this one? Okay. So as Susan comes to the table, I want to call out one quick thing, and then I'll let Susan talk through the rest of this. You see a big jump in professional services. So right now we have one open headcount in development services. We had a building inspector leave us to go to Mecklenburg County for a elevated position for a sizable salary increase, and we're happy for him. We were projecting to try to add a full-time code enforcement officer for the coming year that would just be dedicated on code enforcement. Primarily property maintenance issues that keep coming up. We've been very reactionary in the code enforcement side of things, and we were going to look to try to become more proactive in code enforcement. When you look at those two positions, assuming council would afford us the new one of the code enforcement, with salaries and fringe benefits, it was over $150,000. As I had conversations, particularly with Brian, our building official, and then most recently with Lewis, our other building inspector, we're actually going to contract out. There are companies that with certified building inspectors. We're going to contract out all of our new construction building inspections. Brian will oversee that. They'll still pay us. We will schedule them. They'll go out and do all the normal building inspections. Brian and Lewis, because they are certified, they will handle any inspections for your remodels, your decks, things like that. But it's going to allow Lewis to shift more of his focus to code enforcement, so that we can still capture that piece. The company that we're going with do work for a number of cities around the state. One of which is Irmo. They do 100% of every inspection in Irmo. They do a lot for City of Greenville and several other cities with a lot of success. We feel like that $100,000 uptick may actually even be a high number, to be quite honest with you. If we get a normal winter, like we should have versus one like we had this past year, that is absolutely a high number as far as the number of inspections per week that they will have to do. So
yeah, it's going to be based on a percentage of what our building permit fees are. And so I think that's what will reduce that cost somewhat.
Yep.
So two questions. 3 years down the road, something gets uncovered that was passed and shouldn't have passed, which leads to liability for the city.
It doesn't.
Are they going to take care of it?
It doesn't lead to liability of the city. Under state law, We are not liable for any inspection we do, don't do, or screw up.
Or
And that is
even
under
if
state
it's a
law.
contracted inspection with a third party.
And that's under state law.
It's still bad optics for the city. And I know we have paid for things that we missed.
It is.
So, I mean,
But-
are they
Yes.
indemnifying us, or is it on us?
We have not put the contract together yet. I mean, obviously, we wanted to get through budgets with council first, but yes, that onus is on them, and Brian will be overseeing them as our building official.
All right, and the second question would be on the code enforcement part. You mean Lewis will be riding around looking for people who are in violation of some of the new
Yes, sir.
ordinances that we put in place at
Correct.
the mayor's behest?
Well, it's not just that. We get a lot of complaints. I'll use as an example in particular, several properties on Catamaran. You got a lot of rental properties there. You've got siding falling off of houses. You've got yards that are unkempt, high grasses, things like that. And really, we've just been addressing those as complaints come in versus trying to get out ahead of it. And that's where Lewis's focus will be. Going back to your inspection question, because of that concern, honestly, that's why we're keeping them limited to the new construction. Those inspections are pretty straightforward, pretty seamless, a lot easier to do than when you're getting into somebody remodeled their kitchen, or somebody added on a sunroom or things like that. Those inspections get a lot more complicated, and we're going to keep those in-house with our folks. Susan, I'm sorry, I know I took a good bit of your time, but
That's okay.
let you go ahead and talk about the rest
Probably
of it.
explained that a lot more succinct than I would have. But really, there's not I think, significant fluctuation in what we're doing. As Charlie had mentioned, the big jump is in the professional services. The additional 10,000 is what we have had before, and that basically pays for engineering, plan review, GIS, and data mapping services. We have increased some in our software maintenance, and that's because this year we updated our permitting services by purchasing the latest cloud-based software from our permit provider, which is Blueprints. And by moving this to the cloud, it eliminated our storage of that on our city internal network. So this small increases for the maintenance cost for continue to host that on the cloud by Blueprints.
And we've also been able to move our permits with that to where they're all online, where you
Right.
don't have to print out the paper, fill it out, bring it to City Hall or things like that. You can go right online and do it
we'll
all
be
there.
moving into the second portion of that, so in which it will allow us to do digital plan review as well. We have a small increase in our supplies line because we'd like to purchase a large plan scanner. Most of you know that our subdivision plats are in a certain large size. We don't have the ability to scan those. We do have to, by law, have to store those. If we had this scanner, we could actually do that and be more efficient in planning them and saving them digitally, which would eliminate also a storage room at City Hall that is now jam-packed with plats. So that's pretty much the gist of everything here.
Welcome to the 21st century, right? It's only 2023.
Is-
Council, what questions y'all have for
Is
Jeff,
the
sir?
increase in retirement mainly due to increases in wages, I assume?
Yes, sir. There's a formula for FICA and retirement there, and that's why
And my
you see it.
salary's out of it.
But that is why you see the jump there. Yep.
So my question to start with is salaries and wages. If yours is coming out of there, then how do we have a $34,000 increase?
Keep in mind, we have moved some of
Two
some of the
staff
admin
have moved from
salaries.
admin into development
Moving those into
services.
there. And across the board, you do have an uptick scheduled for staff as far as raises. The CPI that came from the state this year was at 8%. We full well recognize that council was very generous to us in this current fiscal year. So we are not looking to do another 8%, but hearing council's
Jump forward, right?
guidance, do I?
I thought I saw you said you were doing 4.
Yep, we're looking to do 4 instead of
And
that full
admin
8.
only looked like 3%, so.
But some of that is because of that changeover,
Yeah.
yes. Sir. And then also, in addition to that 4%, up to 2% on merit per council's comments when we spoke about this last year. And that'll be based on employees' annual reviews. So, and you've got that across the board. Yes, sir.
I didn't see anything in here for Susan's retirement party.
We got that covered. And that'll be in this fiscal year.
I have
so-
2 months.
I know,
Yeah,
I
so,
know.
so to bring council up to speed, we did bring on a planner, Nick. I think several of y'all have met Nick. He's doing a tremendous job for us. Susan's done a great job getting him up to speed so we can have that seamless transition. Susan is going to be in the office one more month with us. And then in September, we're going to let her be remote, but on call for Nick, but let him kind of stretch his wings while Susan's still on staff. But we're going to find a date in September and celebrate her for sure and her years of service, not only to us, but a lot of other communities around the state.
45 years.
45 years. So,
And I got to work on the other side with you, so. You
That's
know,
right.
I appreciate everything and your help and guidance through a lot of the stuff, because everybody knows TEK is a pretty hard place to work on houses. You got to think outside the box. Only other thing I had was,
We do our best.
are we currently scanning those plans at Kinko's or anything like that?
We're having to go, if we have to make copies,
Yeah.
and actually, we're not scanning them and storing them, we're digitally. We have to keep the paper copies. And if we have to make copies, we have to go somewhere like PostNet or something like that, and pay to have a copy made.
Do we have a figure on how much it costs us to do that?
I could probably help out with that
Yeah.
at some point in time if needed. Kind of do it
Be
for a
pro bono
living.
work?
Whatever works. I'm
knows a-
easy.
he knows a
Just
guy.
saying, I could give you the numbers of what something like that would look like versus buying the piece of equipment, for sure.
any other questions on development services? Susan?
So our professional services contractor that we're talking about, I know we haven't agreed on a contract or anything like that. What kind of accountability would somebody like that have to be local and be available and to answer requests in a timely
What I
manner?
can tell you is the particular service that we're looking at, I know the partners and the business professionals in that very well. In fact, their main managing partners I've worked with previously in another jurisdiction. So I know their reputation as well. And I think far as accountability, that's what is one of my concerns, because you add an extra step when you have a third party. But because I think of the track record and the relationships that both myself and Brian have had with this particular company, I think they're going to be very responsive and do that very, very quickly.
I would
One of
think
the
we'd see
things
that
that we're-
improve because that's what they do.
Yeah,
Right?
and one of the
We do a
things that
lot of things.
we're currently working through with this particular company is all of these things. So we've honed in on the price, we've honed in on the company, and now it's just between now and the start of the fiscal year is when we'll be nailing down all those details, and then we'll be bringing that agreement, as you will, back to council for approval
Thank
once
you.
we've got it all nailed down. Yes, sir.
Scott, just so you guys know, the state moved to do this years and years and years ago. It made a substantial change in cost for them in operations as far as construction projects. I've worked with third-party inspectors for the last 20 years. They're held just as accountable to the state as they would be if they were hired by the state.
Correct.
So essentially, they're just another arm of the state. It's just the state's not paying the pensions and the retirements and all of that to those guys. Typically, what happens is you'll have folks that work for a city or a state. They'll go to work for these companies after they retire. So they've got all the information, all the certificates, all of the
Yeah,
accomplishments.
that's the
They've got
folks I
all of
know.
that already done via the state. And they're just going back to work because they get tired of retirement. And that's the, so these folks are very knowledgeable, an awful lot more knowledgeable than you're going to have folks coming out of college. trade
Well,
schools and that
one
kind
thing
of
that
thing.
we found when our inspector did leave us, we posted his position. We got one
Application.
applicant that even had the certifications. We got a number of applicants, but all the rest of them, we would be starting at ground zero, having to get certifications. So, Lewis has the majority of his needed certifications. Brian is now a master building official. It's the highest you can go. So we've got good folks on staff, but even if we wanted to go in-house, it's very, very difficult. It's just, there's not a big market of those employees right now, to be quite honest. And I think a lot of them are starting to move to that private sector. They keep doing the same job, and in a lot of cases, make more money.
And it's not just us. This is happening,
Industry-wide. Yep.
Yeah, industry-wide for the, it's just hard to get folks that have gone through all that training and the required certifications to go ahead and apply without us having to start from scratch.
Well, we're also looking long-term as well. Yeah, I mean, without any other significant annexations, which honestly, the way the growth has happened around our borders, there's not a whole lot of opportunity for what I would call a significant annexation. You're talking 7 to 10 years to build out at this point, and that's with all the commercial being done, and your residential wrapped up. And now you've got those additional headcounts, if we fill those now versus going this route. Yep. Any other questions for Susan? Great. Thank you, Susan. Next up, Tim is out. He'll be back next week. He is in Pennsylvania for his mom's memorial service. So Joey is going to tackle Public Works for us. So Joey, take it away.
I will do my best to fill Tim's massive shoes, boots, and cargos. I'll hit the highlights on everything where you have more than a slight uptick. Tree care. So the tree care are your trees in the medians of TKK Drive. It's just the supplies, the fertilizers and stuff to keep those healthy. Obviously, we've seen an increase in that as we've gone on through the last couple of years. So that's where that $3,000 increase comes from. In building grounds and maintenance, you'll see an uptick of $6,500. That comes from the fence that's over by PD that we use for storage and stuff. It's basically a wind tunnel that's constantly getting knocked down. It's a maintenance nightmare for our staff. So what we're proposing is to remove that fence and then hardscape it with some evergreen trees to still keep it blocked and out of sight, but
Evergreen trees that are outside of the transmission right away.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think y'all got well educated
That
on
sounds like a great Eagle Scout project.
So that's where that uptick comes in from that to help remedy that ongoing maintenance issue with that. Our big uptick that you're going to see there is in street maintenance of $50,000. So the street maintenance is not just filling potholes; that's also our fixing sidewalks, replacing cracks, and street signs. So our operation or public works superintendent Chad Holland put together a sign maintenance program where a lot of the city signs are not in current compliance. So his plan is getting us there. The $50,000 that you're seeing basically takes us, we're at Riley Lane right now. So this plan would take us all through traditional TKK. So that's rest of TKK Drive, Marquesas, all through there, the Marina District, Point Clear, and then wraps up at Molokai. So that's not just your road signs, that's your stop signs, any signs, that's the pole, everything that gets us in compliance in that area. And that also is taking care of all of it on TKK Drive. So any high visible areas, we want to make sure to take care of those as well. So if we're able to tackle this amount, the next plan for next year is to try to tackle the peninsula and hopefully be done in that area. So that's your massive uptick in that. the last one that you see a slight increase is in tree work. That's simply trees that we can't take down just because they're high risk. We're experiencing a lot more trees that need to be eliminated in our greenway areas. So that's just accounting for being able to take care of those dangerous trees that we can't get to ourselves. Oh, perfect. Yeah, thanks. I should have started off with that. Yeah, so I'll start with the two head count. So what we're experiencing in Public Works is as Lake Ridge and these other newer neighborhoods, the trees are maturing. We're now starting to pick up significant brush in those areas. So that's an increase in there. And then the other side of it is the stormwater management side of things. We've had to take a very reactive approach to stormwater where, oh man, we have an issue, we need to take care of it now. We're anticipating on that headcount also being able to assist with doing more preventive maintenance on our infrastructure to hopefully catch any of those errors before we get a huge rain shower and then we discover them after the fact. So that's the head count of it. The capital, so the two replacement trucks that we have, they're 2012, 2013 vehicles. I would tell you the mileage on it, but the odometer stopped working after 200,000 miles. So needless to say, we're in a point to where those need to be replaced. The pole barn, Charlie touched on earlier, but this gives us opportunity to store our equipment, the leaf vac trucks, things of that sort, during that time when they're not being used, to hopefully extend the life of them, help with the maintenance of them long term. So that's a big part of it. And then the last piece that you have is the RTV. The RTV we use in multiple ways. It helps with trash pickup, but it's also used to carry materials to places that vehicles just can't reach. So through the woods, we're doing a stormwater project, so on and so forth, that helps us get materials off-site. Any questions?
Yeah, this may be the wrong section, you tell me about it.
Go ahead.
And I had briefly talked to Charlie about this, but the median on Stonecrest, would that be Public Works or would that be?
Parks and Recreation.
That's Parks and Rec. Okay, I'll save it for Parks and Rec.
That'll be
It's
coming.
allocated in there.
Yes, sir. And the two trucks that Joey was mentioning, they don't even run right now. So as far as what are they costing us in maintenance, right now they're not costing us anything because they're just sitting dead.
I do have two folders of previous maintenance, though. They're quite sizable. Might need to shred them.
One thing I will say, and it's not just Public Works, but across our departments, I can tell you that our staff gets all the goodie out of a vehicle. I know when I started here in 2001, Public Works was driving around in 1989 trucks, and Parks and Rec's actually hoping to get rid of one of those that they have. But what questions y'all have for Joey on
I
Public
had one
Works?
more, though, and I do still see the Prius riding around, so yes, you do lick all the red off that candy.
Yes, sir.
And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but it seems to me that I've seen some pictures where we've been doing some sidewalk maintenance, possibly in Lake Shore, where maybe trees that were not thought were going to get that large were planted in between the street and the sidewalk, and there's
Yes,
some
sir.
heaving. What do we do, to prevent, I love trees, I hate to cut down trees, but if you got trees that are destroying your sidewalks, what do we do there?
During the sidewalk replacement process, we handle that root and cut that off. Root's probably going to come back at some point in time, but you're looking at sidewalks that are, in some areas of Lake Shore, that are 20 years old. So it does take some time. That was not something that I was a big fan of. The Lake Shore Development Agreement was put in place, I'm wanting to say in 99, 2000. If you look at Lake Ridge, I was operations director as that came through. We don't allow for any tree plantings in the what is referred to as the planter strip. Usually that's where your water lines are. It's a 5-foot wide area. You start boogering up your sidewalks, potentially your curb and gutter, your roads, things like that. So those plantings we're requiring to be in the yard going forward. You'll see that in everything since Lake Shore, is to handle that. Now, as we come across those trees, we prune to keep them out of the right-of-way, keep them lifted up. I think it's 14 feet high as it extends across the curb. I think it's 10 foot high across the sidewalks. But as it starts causing us problems, or as the tree dies and we remove it, typically if it's in the planter strip, we're not putting it back. And we just keep on moving.
So thinking about tree maintenance, I've had a couple of residents reach out that have larger vehicles, RVs, things like that, that they pull down their street and wash them, clean them, so forth, in between events where they take them out. Some of the low-hanging limbs are causing some damage to those. Is that something that they can call and handle on a case-per-case, or is that on the
Yes,
schedule?
it is, and if they, usually, and we're getting to that point in time of the year, the Fort Mill School District, they start taking the buses around and, teaching the new bus drivers the bus routes. They're pretty good at letting Tim know, hey, on this street, that street, the other street, it's
Okay,
whacking
good.
the school buses, that kind of thing. And, by ordinance, it has to be, I'm pretty sure it's 14 feet, 1 foot past the curb, 14 foot high. A lot of times if it's a privately owned tree, Tim sends those letters out to them, hey, on this date, we're pruning your tree. You want to prune it ahead of time, have at it, but otherwise, we're getting it. And some say, nope, don't touch my tree, I'm gonna handle it. Others end up with weird shaping tree canopies. It's like a cartoon, kind of cut the box out of part of it. But yeah, if I know we had one recently, just a couple months ago, where somebody's air conditioning unit on top of their RV was getting whacked by a limb. They called us, and I think within a couple days we had it taken care of. So, yep.
These two trucks that we're wanting to replace, we going ahead and upgrading those to trucks that we, good size, like 250, 350s. service bodies.
That is what is anticipated with the trucks.
250s. Yeah.
'Cause I would rather not buy a truck that won't do what we need to do.
Yeah, whatever the model of the 1989 version that we still drive.
That one, right, we buy a
That
couple
one.
more of those.
We'll get that one, yes.
Let's find a couple of those cherry condition, let's grab those.
Absolutely. Yeah,
okay.
we're making sure that, I mean, we don't need a whole fleet of 2500s, to be able to haul things, but we're making sure that we are getting those extended cabs and things like that to where if we need to load an entire crew and that type thing, so yes, sir.
I'd just like to see us have the equipment that we need to do the job.
100%.
Worst case scenario.
Yes, sir.
That way, when we roll out, we get it done, and we come back and the guys are
100%.
comfortable. It's a big key for all of our staff. We want them to have good equipment to where, we're not riding in beat up stuff anymore.
Yes, sir.
The time's come to where, we're gonna clean up TUK. We gotta make sure the folks that are cleaning up TUK are comfortable in doing so and have the equipment necessary to do so.
Understood.
So,
Look
thanks,
good,
guys. I
play
appreciate
good,
it.
right?
What are the questions y'all have on Public Works? All right. We'll keep moving right along, and Chief Crosby, if you want to join us, please, sir. Again, he's got a mountain of material for you. Again, no new headcount in police. And Chief, why don't you walk them through some of your budget highlights here, and we'll see what questions we got.
Sure, so thank you for the opportunity to be able to present the budget. Since I'm hearing no questions, appreciate y'all. Sorry, I guess I'll stay for a little while. Thank you, Bud. So just going through a little bit of the budget, as you will see, first we have an increase in our travel and training. In our 3-year plan, we put a very strong emphasis on training our employees so they have better skills and better can serve our citizens. This year alone, or 2021, we had 869 training hours. 2022, we went to 1,090 training hours. And already for this year, we are at already 900 and approximately 50 training hours. So we are placing a very strong emphasis on training. We're also going to attend a few conferences that we have not in the past that will allow us to be up to date on the trends in law enforcement, better equipment, better vehicles, what is out there that we can better serve our citizens. So we do need to attend those conferences so we can learn that information. If you'll notice, the next increase is in software maintenance. All of our software is reoccurring with the exception of 3, and so they had the expected annual increase. We did add Lexipol, which is what you're seeing for the first time due to the funds from last year. We were able to move forward with Lexipol. Lexipol, when I got here, we identified a critical need that we have as being our policy manual, both in content and accessibility to the officers and staff. So we entered into an agreement with Lexipol to where they have counsel that will review all of our policies. They will send us recommendations on ways for best practices if they see something happening at the federal level, through the Supreme Court or through other states. And so we now have a brand-new policy manual that we're just about done with, and so we feel very good about that and are pleased with the services that we're getting from them. There's approximately $10,000 within this line item that may have a decrease as we have applied for several grants. We have not received those grants yet, so therefore I cannot remove those items from that line item yet. But I do anticipate about a $10,000 decrease in that, hopefully, if we do get approved for those grants. And then the final increase that you will see really is in community relations. And again, we placed another strong emphasis on building stronger relationships with our community members. We promoted a sergeant, Sergeant Bowers, to that community relations position. We're having a lot more community events. You saw the Cocoa with a Popo, National Night Out, the Christmas Shop with a Hero event, the golf tournaments, and all this other things that we've been doing. And of course, we need funding for that. We also put in some additional money to also have a recruiting effort and retention effort for our officers. Our goal is this February, we're already working with John to have a annual police officers banquet to where we can recognize our staff for the outstanding work they've done all year long and have a time they can come with their significant others and fellowship together, but also be recognized for their hard work. I know there may be some questions regarding the capital improvement or the capital outlay events.
Chief, before you jump into that.
Sure.
If you could touch on the decrease that you're showing in supplies, as well as on K-9.
Yes, sir. So in supplies, we just had some things that came out of supplies from last year. Historically, well, probably from here on out, you're going to see in our budget a replacement cost for radios. They were typically in supplies. We put those in capital this year, so that's why you're seeing that reduction there. And also, as you know, last year was Mal's first year. So Sergeant Bowen has done a great job with her. He has a lot of the equipment that he needs to start with Mal. The community has been great and loves that dog to death. So they have been very supportive of us in getting the equipment that we need for her. So therefore, you're seeing a reduction in that line item. But we still have what we need to make sure that she's healthy and doing the services for the department as well. And also, Josh has the skills that he needs to work the dog as well. Moving on to capital outlay, we are asking for the approval to move forward and replace our in-car cameras. This will be a 5-year project. This will be year 1 of 5. As you know, the state was gracious enough to give us the money to go to new body cameras. Our body cameras are extremely old. Again, our in-car cameras are extremely old. We have decided to go with the Axon cameras. We're very excited about the Axon platform because it will allow us to be more efficient in our jobs. And with the ability to move now to these in-car cameras, the two systems will talk to each other. And we're looking very much forward to having that capability. Also, now is a very good time to do that because, as many of you know, you have to have servers to put this data on. We're nearing the end of our life for our server. So that's an additional $20,000 that we will soon have to replace if we don't move forward. And Axon goes to a cloud-based system, so all of our data will be secured on the cloud. Motorola sent us an email not too long ago, the fire chief and myself, advising us that they have decided that a series of their radios will be discontinued. Another series of their radios will require upgrades. So as you see before you, we're asking for the replacement of 4 in-car radios, 4 handheld radios, so that's $60,000, and then another $25,252 for that mandatory software that they're requiring us to have for that Tier 3 system to work properly so we don't have to replace those. I do anticipate that you will see another mandatory software upgrade next year at about that same figure. And then finally, we're asking for, again, 4 patrol cars for this year. The patrol cars that we have and requesting to come offline, Lieutenant Reap is our fleet manager, has done a great job. He's worked very closely with our city shop for them to look at the cars and to evaluate the cars. All the cars that we're bringing before you have over 100,000 miles. One has 130,000 miles. One is at 93,498. All of them need between $4,000 to $8,000 worth of work. The work ranges from anywhere from transmission and oil cooling issues, electrical issues, air conditioner issues. We also went and pulled the basic Kelley Blue Book value of the vehicles. In conjunction with what we've already spent on the cars, with what we have to spend on the cars are not, that value is depreciated quite a bit, and so we are actually paying more for the car than what it's worth to have them fixed. I do have some packets for you if you wish to see those with the mileage, what's wrong with each of the car, what the cost of each of the car is, and then what the believed value is. I will share with you, We did go by Kelly Blue Book for the value. However, when we take these to auctions, we typically are getting lower than what Kelly Blue Book is. Okay?
Questions y'all have?
You mentioned the in-car cameras being a 5-year project. So, I mean, is that 60,000 a year for 5 years?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I figured as much, but
Yes, sir.
I'll be gone, it won't matter.
Will that just continue?
Yes, sir. That'll be for each 60,000 for 5 years, and then we'll have to evaluate that program to see if we want to get in a new camera or if we're pleased with the cameras that we have and they're working properly, we can stay. But the way Axon is, they of course have it.
The
built
reality of it
every
is in 5 years, it's obsolete.
Yes, sir.
That line item almost, I mean, while we're showing it in capital, realistically, it probably ends up becoming more of an operational line item, which is what we'll probably do for the 24, 25 fiscal years, just put that on the operational side instead of capital.
Would you find out if they need a salesperson? I'm just thinking that's probably a pretty lucrative job, would be my
Actually, they
guess.
do. They do.
You can get out of changing oil.
So the new patrol cars that we're looking at here,
Yes, sir.
do you have any kind of information as far as to what we would like to see as far as the cars go?
Well, yes, sir, I do. So as of right now, the numbers are that the Tahoes that we have are estimated about $48,000 on the state contract. And allow me to clarify, so those that may be watching at home. Our police vehicles are not sold to us at civilian prices. So as a civilian, you're going to go to the Chevy lot or to the Ford lot and get a certain price for that car. Because it's under state contract for police, there is a significant price reduction for those cars, which is why some individuals have had a hard time believing that we got the cars for what we did. Right now, the quotes that we're being presented is the Tahoes are at $48,000 and the Ford Explorers are at about $46,000, maybe a little bit more $1,000. We are proposing to go with the Tahoes, continue with the white. We have seen a significant temperature difference in the cars as officers are working. So we are asking to go back with the Tahoes in the white color and continue to move forward with that project.
What's the average upfit after you buy it?
Yes, sir.
It's gotta be 30.
So the vehicles,
Yeah.
the vehicle itself is about, the vehicle was 48. The upfitting for the car was like 13,000 if it was going to have everything in it. Some of the cars, though, we were doing as a civilian model and not putting all of the equipment in to save some money. So that was about $12,000 to upfit.
And the upfit, for those that aren't aware, that's 360-degree lights all the way around, your cage, your back seat, your decals on the outside, your radios, the whole kit and caboodle.
61,000 per vehicle.
Yeah.
61,000 plus.
Chief, it's only $1,000 difference between the upkit and not upkit?
Yes, sir.
Does it make more sense to upkit them all?
Well, so you
you
look
have
at
the
things like
ability.
we don't need, like, some of the cars will not need a cage in them. Some of the cars will not need the plastic back seats that come in them. So Lieutenant Reap has done a great job and Major Patterson to evaluate what the needs were for each car and how could we save a little bit of money because we realized that we were asking for the Tahoes instead of the Ford Explorers. So we're trying to be good stewards of the money.
Corner for $1,000.
It's worked well with what we had with the current Tahoes. We're very pleased with their performance and what they've done for us and the outfits that they have. So we were just going to continue to model those packages.
So Chief, if we went with the Explorers, would we be able to use any of the equipment that we've got in the cars now?
No, sir. I know this may surprise you, but the manufacturers make that equipment to where it changes with each body style. Different sizings of nuts and bolts and things like that. So it changes with each different model of car. There's some things like we do have some equipment like wiring harnesses that we do keep to save cost. They just went through this week to identify things that we can keep to save cost. And we keep those items and give those to the company to help us out with that.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions for Chief? On his operation or capital? Great. Chief, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next up is our fire department. Chief Hasty makes his way to the table. Again, no new headcount considered here in fire. I do want to, before we get into fire, by the end of this month, we will be, and maybe first part of August, we will be 100% fully staffed in law enforcement for the first time in quite some time. We're short one right now, I believe, in fire. Had one move across the country, family and stuff like that, but Chief's working on trying to get that position filled here before too long. So, Chief, I'll turn it over to you.
Hey, good evening. Our budget, just a slight increase overall. We can go through and hit the highlights of that if you like. We've seen some decreases in some of our line items, which you guys have already reviewed, I'm sure. We've got a slight uptick in fuel cost. Part of that is because we are going to put the boat in the water here in a couple of weeks. All the electronics are in, and finally. And we've had some challenges, supply chain issues and that, trying to get those things in. So still some weird things going on there. Travel and training is down by about $5,800 next year. The goal there, we always plan what our training will be for our firefighters. We've got some mandatory trainings. That's why our training budget is as high as it is. We have things that we have to do, and we anticipate those, plus new things that we need to do to support the citizens here and the other departments working in the city. So just decrease of about $5,800 there. We've got a slight increase in the cell phone. What that is a wireless card for a computer. Our fire inspector, James Broom, we're giving him a computer so he can take care of fire inspections and those things without having to come back to the fire station to print and run forms and that kind of stuff. So, building and grounds maintenance, you guys see an increase there of $63.90. The reason we've got an increase there is we're trying to do some renovation work at Station 2. We need to paint the bays. The bays are overdue for painting. Quote there is about $2,800 to get the bays sprayed, and a kitchen remodel. A lot of our staff do work. The cost of that is only materials. Our firefighters are gonna install the kitchen cabinets in that building, and for a cost savings there. So we do a lot of that work, trying to do as much as we can ourselves to lessen the impact to the citizens. Repair and maintenance equipment, you guys see a slight increase of $3,500 there. Extrication tool batteries, the batteries we use in our extrication tools are $1,000 a piece. And it's time to replace some batteries. So it's a pretty big hit. We've also got some other battery powered equipment, drills, those kind of things, sawzalls that we use for extrication for vehicles and that we need to replace batteries in as well. So battery cost is what's eating us up there. It's the slight uptick there. Vehicle maintenance, you guys see that $97.50 is the increase that's anticipated there. That's tires primarily, the reason for the uptick. Tires for a fire truck are pretty expensive, about $870 a piece for the rears. The fronts are $1,200 to $1,300 a piece. So engine 2 and ladder 1 both need some tires, as well as the brush truck. So pretty big ticket items. And no, Discount Tire doesn't sell those. We've had a pretty significant uptick in software maintenance. The big uptick there, as Chief Crosby just explained, Motorola's hit us with a programming fee. So we're just sharing that along. Unfortunately, like Charlie said, that's something we don't control. They are, and that's part of our capital. I'll talk about that now. Part of our capital is we've got to buy 5 mobile radios because we've been told at the end of the year they're going to turn those off. They've given us a grace period to get those purchased in this new budget year, and we'll continue to operate until January, February timeframe before they turn those radios off, and we won't be able to communicate anymore. Dues and subscriptions is up a little bit. The primary reason for that is, as Chief Crosby has talked about with Lexipol, we've been with Lexipol for probably about 3.5 years now. They are doing some policy work for us as well with the new budget year, just trying to vet our current policies, make sure that they are what they need to be, helping us with some training pieces so we make sure that our firefighters stay out of any kind of policy issues that we may see. So it's a really important piece for us. Slight decrease in the contribution of volunteers. The budget they presented was $2,000 less in the coming year, so we're thankful for that. The volunteer response piece, so we do a slight stipend for our volunteers based on training, calls that they run and those things as they serve the community. It's divided up into quarterly points, and those points equate to a dollar value. So on average, the firefighter is giving much more in time and in their revenue out of pocket than we give back to them. The slight uptick there is $2,000 for a tent, easy up tent to with our logo and stuff on it. The one we've got is coming apart, and we use it for events, recruitment, and those kind of things. So that's what that piece is. IT, we're down $5,000 in the coming year. The reason we got a decrease there is good planning and some help from Janet. We've bought some equipment early out of monies that we had left over last year, and a little bit that we've anticipated this year. So we're not going to have quite as much of a demand on the IT side next year. The EMS line item, you guys see, went up $4,500. The uptick there is we've enhanced our drug cache and capabilities. We're going through training in about 2 weeks to certify our firefighters to be able to give epinephrine, albuterol. We're already giving Narcan and some other things to help assist the citizens if we have on a medical call, have a delay on an ambulance, those kind of things. So our
When Chief says drug cache, that's C-A-C-H-E.
Yeah.
Just so everybody understands.
Thank you. Yeah.
Doesn't translate well on YouTube.
Yeah, you're right.
Make sure everybody's on the same
Yes. So fire department military terms don't always equate to the same thing for everybody, right? Apparatus and equipment, slight increase of $2,400 due to forecasted equipment needs. So that's what we've got for our budget. Any questions?
Council, yeah, so you see, we've taken the utilities down to zero. Chief and his staff have been gracious that they are just going to operate by candlelight. No, I'm just kidding. So the utilities for all of our other departments have always been captured in non-departmental. The reason fire department had a utilities line item is when we were just operating out of the volunteer station. So basically, we've just moved that down to the utilities line item in non-departmental, so that's why you see that zeroed out.
easier accounting.
Yep. So, Chief, thank you.
Yes, sir.
What questions do y'all have for Chief?
Chief, have we gotten a price for epoxy in the floors instead of painting them?
So it's not the floors, it's the walls.
Walls, okay.
Yeah, so I have not gotten a price to epoxy the floors.
Okay.
What I've found is most of the time the epoxy doesn't stay. The weight of the vehicles, the heat of the tires, those kind of things cause the epoxy to come up. Sunlight through the bay doors, the epoxy many times doesn't stay.
Okay.
Real quick question, I know you mentioned dues and subscriptions went up 14,000. Is that all Lexipol?
It is 13,000, that's Lexipol. There was,
That probably belongs to software maintenance.
Yeah. I mean, it's,
Yeah, so we
tomato,
got-
tomato, he put it in dues and subscriptions, but we probably, as we finalize the budget for the public hearing, probably will move that down to software maintenance or IT expense.
yeah, the other 1080 was printer release.
So Chief, with this, this training that we got with Lexipol, is that going to help with our ISO rating?
So that's a piece of it. They look at all the different pieces. One of it is the operations. They look at the standard operating guidelines, policies, procedures, and those things. So that is a piece of it. That's a big piece for us, the fire department impact. So that hydrant maintenance, water distribution, communications. There's a lot of pieces that play into it, but yeah, it's a piece of it.
Could we maybe realize some savings on our insurance?
I don't know that it's going to make that much of a difference. I'll tell you that we are an ISO 2. We got the letter, and we're an ISO 2 again, which is great. ISO 1 is the best you can get.
And Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, there's really not a big change from an insurance standpoint from a 2 to a 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, they basically do it in groups of 3s. Yeah, so if we were to drop to a 4, for instance, your businesses are gonna see more of an impact really than what your residents will. Yeah, even if we get to a 1, your residents probably aren't going to see a change, and even your commercial businesses, if they see any, it's going to be very minor. So the commercial entities are the ones that really end up realizing the biggest savings on those ISO ratings, more so than your residential home insurance.
Yeah, and our gap, a big gap for us is number of people that we put on the scene. So ISO recognizes NFPA. NFPA is a guideline for us, but ISO recognizes that as a kind of a rule that we live by. And the numbers of people is a big deal for us. So that's where we're slightly below where we need to be. And staffing's expensive. So, and we'll come to you, we've got a phased plan to do that over time. But, it's a big piece. So another piece is how many trucks would respond, those things. So it is important. It is.
Just to give you a general idea about the epoxy, the quote-unquote permanent, but they won't guarantee, they'll do your home garage and guarantee it for life,
Yeah.
but they won't guarantee a commercial application. But we've done a couple lately, and I would guess based on the size of number 2 versus what we've done, that's probably $35,000 or $40,000.
Yeah. Have you had trouble with sunlight taking the epoxy out?
Not had any problems in the one that we've done. We're getting ready to do another one over Labor Day weekend, so, and that's gonna be much more high traffic, so we'll see.
Yeah, weight of trucks, heat of tires, those things all affect.
Well, your trucks are a lot heavier than anything's going in our building.
Chief, question on travel and training.
Sure.
The decrease, is that more travel or training?
So we identify classes that we need, and some of the classes we've been able to tick off the list ahead of time. So we've just changed the class dynamic. So it's numbers of people in class and what we're doing. We've also done some things, significant savings to the city, and we've talked about it before, but the Apprenticeship Carolina piece is a big deal for us. It's a savings of about $1,800 a firefighter going through the EMT program. So because of a grant, we've been able to do that and save the
Nice.
city some money. So
Okay. The reason I ask, I'd hate for you to skimp on training,
yeah,
and I
we're
don't
not.
think you
So
would.
we've just reallocated, and like I said, that Apprenticeship Carolina money has really helped us.
Great.
We've sent 4. We've got a 5th in EMT class now. So that's a savings of $1,800 each firefighter that we've sent through EMT through Apprenticeship Carolina with York Tech. So
We really, really appreciate the service you and your team provide.
thank you.
Thank you.
What are the questions y'all have for Chief Hasty? All right, Chief, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. All right. For Dustin's first appearance of the night, go ahead and join us up here. Parks and Rec, Council, again, as I said earlier in the meeting this evening, are requesting for 2 additional full-time headcount. During our conversations during the budget process, Dustin had actually requested 3, but as he and I and our ground superintendent, Scott Cook, discussed, we're able to pull that down to 2, but then allocating some funds for seasonal part-time staff to help backfill some of those hours. As we opened Catawba Park, as we added another 500 kids in one season, and feeling the importance of having staff out there, especially during the evenings, but then also having a lot of work that has to get done during the normal working day. Dustin and his staff have done a great job of trying to shift schedules, to try to balance that out, try to keep overtime down as much as we can. But what we're finding is we're just not able to keep up with as much stuff. Keeping things up to the level that we really want them to get done, getting projects taken care of in a timely fashion. So using some of that seasonal part-time staff to help backfill some of those evenings, some of those weekend hours, instead of the expense of a full-time staff person that comes with retirement benefits and all those type things. So that's the staff portion. Dustin, I'm going to turn it over to you to walk council through the operational side of things.
All right. Council, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. I'm fairly long-winded, so I'll try and keep it to the point. So first, I do want to say thank you and commend my staff. A lot of them had their hands in helping with this budget as well as the capital outlay requests that we'll get to a little bit afterwards. So thank you. Some of them are watching at home. I told them I'd give them a shout out. One of them's on vacation too, and he's watching it. So, but I just want to highlight some of the big items that you'll see. They'll probably jump out to you right off the back. Just moving down the line, one of the first ones you'll see is that increase in our referees and extra help. It is going from 45 to 58,000. To kind of give you a long story short, over the past 10 years, we've been very fortunate with the individuals that have booked our baseball umpires, softball umpires. After COVID hit, the entire landscape changed in terms of getting those types of people to book, also umpires to umpire. You know, you try to fill that with college kids, high school kids, and then travel ball came into the equation, and they were getting paid significantly more on a weekend than to spend their time with rec. So what we've looked through is we investigated some of the other municipalities as to what they do. And the trend that you're seeing is moving to a professional booking agency or a booking person. So we have identified someone that will be that we'd like to move forward with that. However, that does include an increase in the umpire pay. Because to keep us competitive, to get people to show up, we need to increase the pay. We've had one pay increase in probably 8 years.
So you're saying the parents won't yell at the umpires anymore?
I can't promise that.
But you ask anybody in our, especially our baseball program this past year, lots of games where umpires were just no call, no show. You know, and you're dragging a parent out onto the field or getting an assistant coach to try to do it. I mean, it was a nightmare, probably more so this past spring than we've probably ever seen.
Ouch.
That's why we evolved.
To Charlie's point, I spoke with our baseball coordinator, and this past spring alone, we had between 10 and 15 no-call, no-shows in baseball. And as a program, it's someone that ran the baseball program that's not acceptable to our families, and we want to keeping the standard that we've set for our recreation program. So that's the increase with there. Flag football officials also do get an increase as well. The next one would be right under that. That's your supplies, increase of 5,000. Supplies is going to be everything from your toilet paper to paper towels to paint to janitorial supplies to anything that you can think of in terms of beautifying the city or keeping the city beautiful. Some of the things that you may have seen, the pergolas right over by Trailhead Park got painted by one of our gentlemen, Brian Baker and Charles James. That paint and that type of stuff comes out of supplies. So when we saw the usage of the parks, that's your increase in your toilet paper, paper towels, things like that, and just general supplies.
Excuse me, can I somewhat embarrassingly ask for about a 2-minute recess?
To the mayor.
Prostate
To
issues.
the mayor.
Thank you. Do I need to make a motion and have it approved? Hey, Mayor, I'll be right back.
Okay,
Do that one. We're going to be in recess for Gus.
okay.
Okay, if everybody's ready, we are back in open session.
I'd like to let the record show that I said it, but like 3 people followed me, like immediately running. Back 2 of them passed me on the way. I need to get that out.
Okay. All right, Dustin.
Taking an opportunity. All right. So we'll jump right back onto just a number that jumps out to me is that contract grounds maintenance. Just for a reminder, that's our mowing contracts with Coffin Landscaping at Catawba Park and Brightview. Brightview took over this year doing a lot of the medians, things like that, and we think they've done a fantastic job. Our landscape supervisor has been very happy with their service. So the next one is going to be our recreation equipment. It's a slight uptick, if you want to call 4,000 a slight uptick. What that takes into account is just the cost of recreation equipment. To give you an example, we did some analysis in 2021, our spring baseball season, we were paying $38 a dozen for baseballs. Mind you, we give coaches 2 dozen to start the season off. This past spring, we're now paying $45 a dozen. So over 3 springs, the cost of all sports equipment is going up. So our staff does a great job of trying to purchase all that at a discount with one of our sponsors through their gift cards and 20% shop day. So they try to keep that cost low, but even with that, the price continues to rise. That also includes the increase in participation that Charlie mentioned that we saw this past springs. So, park maintenance, it's you'll see a 10,000 increase from that from last budget year. That is our general maintenance, our turf plan, and landscaping. The additional 10 that you'll see. You mentioned that about Stonecrest. We do have a plan that's part of the plan to upgrade the medians. Our landscape supervisor has been working pretty diligently with Brightview on a plan. We're hoping to do phase 1 before the end of this budget year, and that would be phase 2 to complete that. Grass, mulch, and trees. Park maintenance.
Yeah, so park maintenance includes not just park maintenance, it's also where we've put, our flowers and things like that are all in there as well. Our turf grass management program that Dustin talked about with your fertilizers, pre-emergence, things like that. Instead of creating more line items, it's all in park maintenance.
I mean, my thought on that was, the developer put trees that were never capable of growing in
Correct.
a median that's this wide, or
Yep.
got that much turf on it. But am I correct in saying that's probably the second most heavily traveled road in TKK?
Stonecrest Boulevard, yeah, I would say Stonecrest Boulevard and TK Drive are our 2 most heavily
And I
traveled.
mean, it's an
for sure.
arterial road. I just, and it needs to look better.
Yes,
And
we agree 100%.
I'll say, I want to bring up something later.
I will, just to add on to what Dustin was saying, as far as working with Brightview, one of the services that they offer to us, they have professional landscape architects that are working to, and are designing that plan for us. And just in case folks missed it, as Dustin said, we're going to tackle phase 1 before the end of this fiscal year, and then this will help us finish that off as we roll into the new fiscal year to make that stretch of Stonecrest Boulevard through Serenity Point get up to par where it needs to be.
And the final one I want to touch on is going to be trail maintenance. You'll see it's an increase to $17,500. That is the final portion of the Hunter's Run Trail. It was 3 parts where asphalt needed to be replaced due to tree root damage. And the additional fund is also to fix the path from the parking lot from Rundy to the bathrooms in the concession stand area to fix that up. That's what that additional $7,500 would be for.
You get one more big one there, Blake.
It's big.
The line items.
Well, that's in the line item.
Oh, yeah.
Capital outlay.
Capital outlay.
There you go.
All right. Nope.
I'm seeing a trend that everybody holds on to that one till last.
They all keep passing over it for some reason.
I'm just following the trend. At first, I said, I guess we're just skipping it. We're just moving on. So yeah, it is a big line item. I'd like to kind of go through each one a little bit. I will be long-winded because these are something that I'm going to use the word effective and efficient probably a couple times as to how this is going to help us be effective and efficient, and also beautification. All of these ones, like I said, were looked at by staff, and and they played a large role in getting those quotes, along with really seeing what they can do to make the city look even better than it is. I'll start off with the Sand Pro. It's called the Sand Pro, but the one that we're looking at is a Sandstar CVT. Some of you might recognize that as a bunker machine, but it also has the opportunity to be a ball field groomer. To give you an idea, we've had 2 machines. One of them is completely inoperable, and the other one, the groomer does not work. So this would become our primary ball field groomer for all of our dirt fields inside the peninsula. Yeah, I'm getting there. This machine, like I said, is versatile piece for the infields. It can rake, and including the infields, it also can be used on sand. So we're looking at Windjammer Park being able to comb the beach, pick up debris, bring up existing sand to help the shoreline. This also will help with our volleyball court that is being used down at the Beach and Swim Center during the summer to help push sand around in some of the low spots, add sand, as well as combing as well for debris, sticks, things like that. Our dirt fields continue to be used 7 days a week. We built Catawba Park, use it for baseball, softball, but our dirt fields continue to get used 7 days a week. So this is a necessary tool. Currently, we're using a golf cart that's not designed to drag fields. It's a golf cart with a drag behind it. So we're trying to make do with what we have right now, but that will be an important piece to continue making sure that those fields look great. Next one is your boxer loader equipment. To be more specific, the one that we got quoted is a Bobcat. I look at this as one of the most versatile pieces of equipment that we can get to be efficient and effective. The original, or the one that it comes with, would be a bucket that can be used for a number of different things. Our staff, Joe Hedgepeth, has been the one looking into it. It has a universal attachment where we don't have to purchase every attachment piece. We can rent them as well. So that
Thank
can
you,
be,
Mayor, for the suggestion there,
Yeah.
as we reviewed that.
things such as a trencher, forks, auger, et cetera, things like that. However, part of that budget request is a request to purchase a stump grinder. We think it's very important for safety as well as aesthetics in the city to make sure we get a stump grinder and we use it consistently, especially with the number of trees that we potentially have to remove, dead trees, things like that. However, the stump grinder cannot be rented individually. Safety reasons, you have to purchase or rent the entire machine. And it goes on that piece of equipment. So the stump grinder is included in that budget request as something that we will own and not rent. However, everything outside of that and the bucket is rentable that we can use with that attachment.
For the right price.
Yeah, exactly.
Or we could target those for them.
Yeah, and to answer your question, to go a little bit further, we do see this as a multi-department tool as well. So anytime Public Works needs to use that type of equipment, obviously this is something that we're putting under Parks and Rec, but it can be used for multiple departments. So I feel like it would be a very important, versatile tool for the city.
Don't let them push you around, Dustin. Charge them for it.
Yeah.
One team, one fight, right?
3 rounds of golf, right? The next one, I know it probably jumps out as a surprise, but I will tell you that one of our staff members, Joe Hedgepeth, this is one of his most important and excited things that he is looking forward to. He's been asking and pushing and advocating for this for about 5 or 6 years. So he's probably watching right now saying, yeah. But the front fountain, right now, we have the bubbler. This would be a complete overhaul of that area. It's not just an addition of a water fountain. It's an addition of surrounding landscape, additional pump, an aerator, filtration system, lighting. What'd I say? Oh, excuse me, waterfall. Converting it to a waterfall with those pieces as well. I think that area is one of the focal points as you're entering in to the peninsula, and it is something that we want to make really beautiful. You see a lot of kids coming from TK Elementary School, a lot of parents walking, riding by that area, a lot of traffic. I believe it'd be a very, very important piece to beautify the city, make it look aesthetically pleasing. We're really excited about this opportunity, so we hope you guys get excited about it as well. The trail lighting, that is budgeted for $80,000. That is lighting of the strategic areas on TKK Drive Trail. This would increase the safety along the trail and create ambient lighting for our early morning walkers or late night runners, golf cart drivers, that type of thing. I know Tim Gillette has worked with the person or the company that gave us a quote beforehand. That is going to do about 800 feet of lighting for that price right there. So we would have to be strategic about the areas that we put them, but we can light up those areas to make the trail safer for everyone.
And just to touch on that, What, this will do what we're considering the entire length of the trail, but it's only in those really dark areas, where you've got a heavy tree canopy or you're well below grade from the road, and it is low-level lighting. So it's not anything that should be any type of eyesore or distraction for your motorists, that kind of thing. So I think a lot of our, as Dustin said, a lot of our early morning or late night joggers and walkers and things are going to really appreciate that.
Moving on to the hot topic for seemingly every department, replacement truck and a new truck. We had a running joke that for the replacing the truck, I'll just show you a picture of the S10, the Legend that I'm sure many of you have seen driving around the city. It is a 2003, so we're getting close, a couple more years, and we can apply for an authentic antique car truck. It has done its job very well. I asked this morning to get an odometer reading. They said they thought that it was 90,000 because it's been turned off since January, but he forgot to mention that that's also missing a number. So we're over 200,000 miles on the truck. It has been, the parts have been replaced several times. It's time to retire her and let her go into greener pastures. So that would be to replace the Chevy S10. And then the other one would be an additional truck. As Charlie mentioned, I did ask for 2 additional headcount. Currently, all of our staff outside of supervisors are doubled up in trucks. So if we get 2 additional headcount, we'd either have to tell them to walk down the trail or put them in a vehicle. So that would be my request for 2 vehicles, 1 replacement, 1 new one for the additional headcount. And the final one is pretty self-explanatory, repaving the parking lot at Rundy. It is a facility that gets tons of use still, concerts, kickball, adult softball, youth sports, and it's time for us to repave that area. So that would be my request for the Parks and Rec capital. Like I said, I think all of these are very important, and I appreciate you guys giving us the opportunity.
And that repaving does include the basketball portion of that parking lot.
It is
as
the
well,
entire
so,
parking lot.
Yep.
Striping, everything?
Yes, sir. It's from driveway, everything, redoing it. It's actually, there's not enough, the asphalt's not thick enough to mill it. There's some places where you may have 2.5 inches of asphalt, and other places where you may have 1 inch of asphalt. So it's excavating all the asphalt and going back with 4 inches of asphalt across the entire thing. So somebody long time from now will have to mess with that parking lot. It'll serve us well long into the future for sure.
So me and Ryan will be off council by then?
Very soon.
I'm thinking
buddy.
there's going to be a lot of
Very
people in
soon.
this room that'll be retired.
Very soon. My only issue, Dustin, is you
parking lot
said
is
you'd say effective and efficient several times, and I only counted twice.
A couple of times.
Okay.
I
But no, I get it. Thank you.
I'm gonna bring up something that you probably wouldn't think would come from me, but, anyway, several years ago, it wasn't an ordinance, but we discussed or passed maybe a resolution discussing looking at art in various projects that we do around the city.
Correct.
And my thought was the roundabout at Walmart. You know, it's been landscaped, but I mean, a lot of people go around there every single day. Something in the center. I mean, one thought I had is there's a former resident of TKK, and he was a baseball coach, Scott Griffin. He's a welder by trade and teaches, but he's also an artist.
Okay.
He does commissioned artwork, anything from small items to somebody in Gastonia at one of the museums there had him do a life-size Harriet Beecher stove. Okay, and this is all metal, so it's permanent. I know there's a theft issue, but you got concrete there, you could lag it in. I mean, I guess if somebody wants to go in there with a tile saw and take it, they could.
I think
But
people would see them.
if it's lagged in, I don't think it's going anywhere.
Right.
I don't know whether he would want 2,000 or 10,000 to create something, or.
We could definitely look into it for
But
sure.
it would just be, I think it would be cool to have something in the
Yep.
middle of that roundabout,
You
permanent.
just ruined my council comments for tonight. I was gonna donate that area with a statue of you.
And you just stole my thunder. That's going to be my
Well, look,
comment.
Mayor O'Neill got the sewage pump thing named after him, so maybe I can get a statue at Stonecrest. The
So-
Walmart Machunas.
When Tim came up with the landscape plan for that, we intentionally left the center open so that at some point, if we figured out what to put in there, and found the funds to be able to do that. So, if you'll help connect us, with Mr. Griffin, love to have a conversation, see what we can come up with.
I'll reach out to him and
Sure,
set that up.
absolutely. I think it's a great idea.
Question. Most of this may be a conversation offline, but can you tell us what plans you may have to improve or expand pickleball this year?
So currently, that is not in the capital outlay. However, that can be a conversation with council as to how they want to proceed with the pickleball improvements.
Okay. Just for whatever it's worth, I've developed a newfound love for the sport, and I've spent several evenings down there, and you'd be really surprised to see how much activity is there if you haven't been there in the evening. Oh, my gosh.
Absolutely.
So, a couple things that I've noticed is just a couple comparisons. You know, when we look at membership in tennis versus membership from a newly formed pickleball club, it's about 6 times the membership in pickleball, and there's about 10 times the influence on their Facebook page. And it's not going away, and it's not going smaller, it's going bigger. So I think we should give that some consideration for expansion.
So, couple things that I will toss out there. I know Dustin has done a good job of getting pricing, so we have pricing on what it would cost.
Okay, good.
One of the biggest concerns that we have from a staff level is when those courts are getting heavily used, and I'm going to speak to more during the cooler months, it gets extremely tight down there from a traffic standpoint. You've got golf maintenance and public work maintenance down there, and it can get very, very cumbersome. So to double the amount of courts down there, which we could do, and it's, what do we figure, about $90,000?
Right around
And
there.
that would include resurfacing the existing ones, plus doing the other ones. I mean, $90,000 in the grand scheme of things, not a big deal. But
Perhaps
then,
the mayor and I could have
where
a
do we
conversation with you
park
guys.
those?
He's got a couple good ideas.
The last thing is, per previous conversations with council, it was my understanding we weren't going to invest in pickleball until pickleball started bringing forth dollars. So
So I've had some conversations with him about that, and I'd love to discuss that with you. Probably today is not the appropriate time to talk about it, but they're prepared for that.
Okay.
They're prepared to have those conversations and how the expansion could help them lead the charge there to raise more funds, contribute to the city, and contribute to the community.
I'll say Dustin's done a lot of legwork as far as identifying software that could be
Right.
used to
Yep.
schedule times and things like that.
Perfect.
All that good stuff. So we've got pricing, but the parking's and how to park it and how to get people access to it and things like that while still being able to do the maintenance function of that area, definitely will come at a pretty good cost. And again, following what I understood to be council's direction. But as you said, glad to have those conversations as we go forward, offline, outside of this.
If you would
with
help us
council,
maybe
with
set
the
up
club.
a conversation between us and maybe the mayor, he had a couple good ideas I kicked around with
Sure.
him, and just kind of spitballing some ideas, and maybe a member of their association. It'd be
Yeah, I
really
know Dustin's been
great
in
to
pretty
talk through
good
that.
contact with, I believe, Trish and Tim
Okay, good.
Reading, so, yeah.
Great. One of the things that I will say that was really exciting for me to see playing there several evenings in the last several weeks, around 10 o'clock, this time of year, of course, kids aren't in school, but around 10 o'clock, every court is packed with high school and college kids, and probably equal number of kids waiting to play
Yep.
that are all hanging out, listening to music. Nobody's causing trouble, nobody's carrying on, nobody's misbehaving, and it's so exciting to see that segment of our society not playing on their phones and actually out socializing, right?
No doubt.
So, great opportunity for us.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Dustin on Parks and Rec?
Absolutely. Let's get back to the capital outlay items that we were discussing
Okay,
that are on the budget.
okay.
Redesign the front fountain. Is the front fountain irreparable?
No, it's working.
Is there something wrong with the front fountain?
No, he's saying they're gonna make it into a waterfall and a centerpiece on the way in, is what I gathered.
Correct.
Just,
Yes, that's
let's
correct.
make this amazing right
Yeah,
here.
correct. And I'll reiterate, it is a complete redoing of a
Mm-hmm.
waterfall and upgrading all of the systems in there. Like I said, the pumps, filters, everything, and lighting.
Is there something wrong with the pumps and filters that are in there now?
They are old. They've been replaced a couple times. I can tell you that the water isn't great quality. You can find some catfish and some goldfish in there right now.
People keep doing goldfish in that thing for some reason.
This would completely change the complexion of that area.
See, and we don't typically notice it. As we drive by, we're looking to see if Charlie's at work, because we're paying him $400,000 a year, and he has a 10-year contract that's fully guaranteed and all this, so we're always making sure he's doing his job. So we don't notice the current situation.
also the landscaping around the entire area as well.
Do we have renderings yet?
So it, not specifically of that area until we get the go-ahead, but to give you an idea, this was kind of what they're basing it off of, like that. So, but if we do get the go-ahead to go forward, we would have full drawings of what it would actually look like.
What portion of the CapEx is, financially, is that looking like to you? What portion of the capital expense, the capital outlay, do you
$47,000.
anticipate that being?
Yeah, 47,000.
27?
47.
47.
Sorry, I wasn't understanding what you were.
That's the waterfall design, that's landscaping, LED lighting, and the like.
No, when I'm thinking waterfall, I'm thinking Palisades looking waterfall.
No, it's not just a
Big,
straight down a
huge,
wall.
Man, big old thing.
Diagonal, it's
It's a
majestic.
meandering
Yes,
Yeah.
waterfall.
yes.
It's majestic.
Majestic.
Good
All
word,
kinds of
good word, Joey. Good
It's
word.
not going to be like sliding rocks.
Money.
It's got good water for it.
And includes a pond at the
Think
bottom.
more
as well,
looking
too.
glass, not sliding
The,
rock.
the Sand Pro.
Right.
Would we be able to switch the heads on the Sand Pro to help to groom the turf at Catawba Park?
I don't believe the attachments would work. Currently, we have the carts that do attach to the pull behind. It might. That hasn't been something that's been explored, but we do have carts up at Catawba Park, so we do plan to try and keep this more towards the peninsula area and then use it up at Catawba Park when needed.
Just, spitballing if they had something that Sand Pro, we could use an attachment for those too. That might speed us up there as well.
So I don't know if they do. We'd have to look into that. With that Sand Pro, like I mentioned, we're trying to plan on keeping it in the peninsula with the dirt fields and in that area, so we don't have to drive it back and forth.
The lighting system for the trail,
Yes, sir.
are we looking to go with solar power or are we going with,
No, sir.
we're going with AC?
Yes, sir.
So that's gonna, would we
It's
be
all
able
low
to,
voltage. Yes,
would we be able to shoot across and get our service from the median
in the way of,
power?
oh, you'll pull it from the monuments
Yeah.
that are on the outbound side.
Okay.
And that was part of the plan, is you're tackling the areas that are the easiest, not only like the areas that need it the most, but also the path of least resistance as well. That's part of that plan.
So is this gonna include a roll pipe type installation to where if we did have a problem with the wiring circuit, to where we have a conduit to where we can fix that wiring future-wise, or is this just a straight power?
Let us talk to Tim when he returns next week, and we can get you that answer.
Okay.
I don't know if it would include conduit with it being low voltage, but it may very well. But Tim had the details on that as he spec'd it out. And we can get you that answer next week.
All right. Truck, the new truck. What kind of make and model are we looking at for that new truck?
So staff generally tries to stick towards the smaller size, like Rangers. We found out that the Rangers are no longer on state contract, so we're looking at Chevy Colorados.
If we do the Boxer, you're gonna need a 250 to pull it.
We've got those. With the existing vehicles we've got in there.
Okay.
We've got that.
Just wanna make sure we're not buying a piece of equipment we can't tow around.
Absolutely.
We absolutely
Kind of
can.
bad.
Absolutely.
I'll come get it for you on the way home. You just tell me where you need to drop it, but
Same purpose.
You know, Ryan's good. He's in and out all the time too, so, you know.
I'll tell you, my staff will figure out a way to get it somewhere.
Just don't drive it somewhere it doesn't get good mileage to the gallon, you know? And then so the box, being clear, the boxer comes with a bucket
Yes, sir.
and a stump grinder.
That's correct.
Yep. We plan on purchasing the stump grinder. Anything else, we would look to rent it
Okay,
As we need it.
as needed.
I know you can't.
I got one. And they're excellent. They are excellent. I'm telling you, as far as versatile piece of equipment, there's really not anything you can't do with them.
Yes, sir.
I mean, on the small side, now, you know, you're not gonna go grade a 3-acre field or anything with them, but as far as being able to get them in and out of places, the tracks will actually retract in, get you into gates that are 4 foot or, you know, wider than 4 foot. They'll get you into there. It's got plenty of power, as far as the tool circuits and that kind of thing go to mount up to it. The flow per gallon per minute is, they're incredible on those little machines, and the amount of work you can get done is, I think, for this, you know, for the city, just in the needs that Park and Rec have, that, you know, instead of a mini, because you can do a backhoe, instead of just a regular skid steer, this is one of those things that encompasses everything, and it does a good job on all of it, so. Just don't get it on more than about a 37% incline, because they'll roll.
Our staff plans to make good use of it.
Firsthand. Just jump on the top side.
Yep.
All right.
Any other questions for Dustin and Parks and Rec? Okay, great.
I
Thank
told you I'd be
Dustin.
quick.
So the last remaining portion of general fund is non-departmental, and I will walk council through that. So your big one is utilities. Your first big one there is utilities as far as an uptick. Again, we did move fire department in there, but also just looking at where our utilities are trending right now, with rate increases that have come through, especially from Duke. That's just where our utilities are at and where they're trending towards. So that's what you're seeing there. Let's see, your next big one as far as uptick is going to be under your trash and recycle service. Again, there is a 3% increase coming from the hauler. In addition to that, you've got your projected new customers coming online. Is why you're seeing that upward trend. Your next big one is on computer maintenance. If necessary, I can bring Janet out to talk about that. But the biggest thing there is some server replacements, along with software and things like that, that we typically, as far as licenses, your various Microsoft licenses that we have to carry and things of that nature. Mr. Islip, I know Janet sent you information on all those servers. Any other questions that you've got perhaps on that? Okay, great. Property insurance, again, that's just, where that is trending. And Bob and Dana's analytical work there is why you're seeing that uptick. The Stonecrest POA dues are going away because it's netting out because they're actually paying us now to maintain the stretch of Stonecrest that they used to spend our dues on. So we're not paying them anymore. So I'm glad to see that. And then you've got your wildlife management program in there at $160 and $160,000, and I'm quite certain everybody sitting in this room knows what that is for. So I will not elaborate any further there. We're anticipating that at 80 to 100 deer, it's going to cost about $80,000, and that is not just all the expense of the USDA coming in. It's also with additional law enforcement officers off duty that we'll need to bring in to secure areas, keep it safe, that type thing. And we don't know yet if DNR is going to let us do more than that 100. We're hoping we can they'll allow us to do the 200 to where it can make a difference. But if they tell us we absolutely can't, then you're looking at that number going down by about $80,000. But we basically came up with the number for the 80 to 100 and then doubled it with a hope of them letting us do more. So that's what that number is. So, council, to wrap up general fund, again, you've got revenues projected at $16,283,004. Total expenses of $16,048,602, leaving you with a net profit, if you will, that on the final budget presentation, as we go into the August meeting, we will show that $234,402 in operational contingency. The budget performs as projected on revenues and expenditures here, then that number would transfer over into our reserve funds and begin earning that 5% interest at the conclusion of the fiscal year. I will say that, when you look at it, you're talking about cash funding, $1,022,302 in capital projects, equipment, and the like, without taking on any new debt. And the budget is still showing over $200,000 to the good, which is, in my opinion, in Bob's opinion, as he and I have talked, is just absolutely phenomenal that we're able to do this, not incur any more debt, accomplish a lot of the things that we've heard from council over the past year and a half as priorities. And that is your general fund. Any final questions on that before we move into Beach and Swim Center?
Just real quick, the million and change is the capital outlay that's being requested by all departments.
That is correct.
And we're cash funding all of that out of reserves.
No, sir. Out of your operational budget.
Out of operational.
Yes,
okay.
sir. Not even touching reserves. Yes, sir. Any other questions on general fund? None? All right. For round two of Dustin, we've got the Beach and Swim Center. This one shouldn't take near as long. He's going to be effective and efficient as we go through this.
Efficient and effective.
Very, get a pillow.
I'll get you out of here.
849 last year, guys. 849.
I'll touch on the revenues very quickly. As I mentioned previously, small reduction there. And again, that's just based on what we're looking at membership-wise. I believe we're slightly north of 172,000 right now, Bob.
Yes, we are.
But we feel comfortable with that number. So in a nutshell, that is your revenues. You can see some of those others in there. Concessions has been kind of hit or miss at the pool. June was terrible for us because it just was not summer weather for pretty much the whole month of June. We didn't start getting into the heat till we rolled into the fourth, but they are still performing well down there, much better than what we've seen in the past. Your salaries and wages there, that is just percentages of some of our Parks and Rec staff as far as their dealings with the pool facility maintenance and that kind of thing. And Dustin, I'm going to let you walk them through, run them through.
Efficiently and effectively.
Efficient and effective. We're trying to get Bob home. So the first one that I'll just touch on is pool maintenance. You'll see it as a fairly big increase, just so that everyone is the bid that we got in 2023, that's what we budgeted. However, they saw a massive increase in not only labor costs, but also chemicals, pool supplies, things like that. As you know, we rebidded it for this pool season, and that is what the number came out to for next season. With the 3% increase, normally that's what their contracts do. The only other thing is your building and grounds maintenance went up $2,000. We've decided to yearly pressure wash the facility every single time, and that just accounts for that extra charge, so it doesn't eat into any other building and grounds maintenance.
Council, you'll see capital outlay of $38,272. Realistically, that is your balancing number. Revenues over expenditures. That number then gets applied towards, if you'll look back at your capital for Beach and Swim Center, as I kind of glossed over at the beginning. It's a total nugget of $207,780. The ask would be for a transfer from general fund reserves. One time, 169,508, in addition to the 38,000 that's over in the, that's in that capital outlay for the beach club, to be able to tackle those needed items. Just investing back into that facility.
Personally, I feel it's an asset to the city. I think I saw you there, Father's Day?
Yes, sir.
And everybody there absolutely loves it. Is it peaks and valleys, and is it a loss leader for the city? Most likely, but it's something that attracts a lot of our citizens, and it's worth the investment, in my opinion, all day long.
Okay.
Does the money have to come out of reserve, or can't we use the extra 240?
You could use the operational contingency, or as the, as if the budget, general fund overperforms. I think you heard from some of your department heads that as we go through the budget, there may be some cost savings and things of that nature. It could be funded out of that operational side. My guess is that's where Bob would initially tag it, but.
I think we can do it operational. Well,
Well-
either way, we can reduce that 234 contingency by the 169, whatever the amount was,
I,
take money out, put it-
personally, to be honest with you, I like my goal every year as we do the budget is to have that operational contingency around 200,000. Just for the price came back in higher than what I was told 8 months ago when I was doing my budget prep, or something unexpected broke, i.e. the ladder truck, ended up needing more maintenance, things like that. Every year that we've been able to put at least 200,000 in that general fund operational contingency, we've done fine through that general fund budget. What we would probably show you for the public hearing and first read in August is showing on a revenue side, a transfer in from reserves of the 169,508, and then would show in non-departmental that transfer out to the beach club. And in the beach club, we would show that revenue coming in from general fund, just from an accounting standpoint. From a cash flow standpoint, though, that's something that Bob does a good job between he and Dana analyzing that. Obviously, if we can not touch reserves, there's been a number of things through the course of this year that y'all have voted on. Was it in the budget initially? And said, yes, we'll do this out of our reserves. And we were able to fund it operationally and not hit the reserves. So that's always our goal, is what's in reserves, we keep that in there, let that keep earning that money for us for the long term. And that would be our goal with this as well.
I think a key component of that, though, is the timing of it. Obviously, these are things that we want to tackle during the off-season, which unfortunately you're looking at October, November, just as we're getting in the budget season. So we're probably left with maybe replenishing it later on if it's performing well, but definitely
100%.
pulling it from the reserves at the beginning.
Yep. Any questions for Dustin on Beach Club? Is everybody comfortable on that capital outlay that we just discussed and doing it that way?
He is efficient and effective. Thank you,
And
Dustin.
we will make those
I knew you'd like
adjustments prior to your August meeting.
So Dustin, we had no rentals whatsoever?
So with the concession agreement, they actually handle the rentals through the Beach and Swim Center.
And then they pay us 5%
Yep.
of their revenues. So they pay H-tax on the food and beverage sold, and then on top of that, they pay us 5% as their rent.
No, I mean, maybe I'm not following. I'm talking as far as if somebody wanted to have a wedding there.
They would book that through
They
the
book that
concession
through the
provider.
concession and then.
Correct.
we-
That is
okay,
correct.
Okay, so, fine, so that's where that comes from. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha.
So the more they rent, the higher that 5% is on that lease. So they're at 5% at the Beach and Swim Center and 5% at Catawba Park, in addition to the H-tax. Any other questions for Beach Club? All right. We're going to move into probably the last of
I'll
our
see you in a few.
big budgets. Dustin will be back when we get to events. So as Antonio, our Assistant Utility Director, unfortunately, Philip had a prior engagement, wasn't able to be here with us tonight. Antonio will be filling in his spot. I'll touch on the revenues and then turn it over on the expense side to Antonio. We will be having rate increases come October, and that is coming from, basically it all generates in Rock Hill. So Part of the, on the water side, it's a pass-through through Fort Mill. On the sewer side, it's a direct from Rock Hill. When they first gave us their 5-year plan several years ago, by the time we hit this fiscal year, they had anticipated no rate increases. As we've talked about in other budgets, with your cost of personnel going up, specifically with Rock Hill, it was cost of chemicals and the like for the water treatment plant and the sewage treatment plant. We're looking at a 7.5% increase on sewer and a 11% increase on water. Those sound like very massive amounts. But Bob, I think when you did the analysis on the average water sewer bill, it's maybe $6, $7. Yeah, a month. So I know 11%, 7.5% sound massive, but on the average water bill, now, I know we've had some folks come before council and they're talking about their, massive, massive water bills, and things like that. Those folks are not the average. When Bob made this analysis, it was based on what our average customer bill is.
8,000 gallons.
Yeah, about 8,000, 7,000 gallons. So, so you do have a fee increase there. And your water revenue and your sewer revenue obviously makes up the bulk of that, through the analysis work. Again, that 144 new homes that we discussed, we've got a formula that phases those in over time, and that reflects in that water sewer revenue as well as your tap fees and the like. So you're looking at a total revenues of $7,235,380. That's about a 12% overall increase in revenues on your utility department. As we get to the expenditures on TCUD, again, the salaries do envision adding one new headcount there. And I'm sure Antonio can talk to where that need is. And Antonio, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you kind of walk
Tired of
through.
looking at my phone.
Before he begins, I do want to just, your water purchased and your sewer, again, that's just reflecting what those rates are, those new rates are. So that's why you're seeing those big jumps. So, Antonio, the floor is yours, my friend.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm going to try to be as short-winded as possible. And I do want to start with the capital items that we don't forget that. Yes.
Efficient, effective,
Absolutely.
short-winded.
Y'all hear that? He's going to start with the capitals.
So-
Go ahead.
Example on short-winded though.
Yeah, right. So pretty simple. I mean, not a whole heck of a lot with ours. What we're looking to do with our capital items is purchase 3 vehicles. 2 of those vehicles are going out. We are going to swap one over and kind of keep it. That'll kind of take over our additional headcount that we're looking to put in. And it has a little bit more mileage on it that we can allow it to stay for some of the shorter runs that we're looking to do. So $140,000 is what we're asking on those items right there.
Cash funded.
Yes. Moving on to some expenses, I'll hit some of the bigger ticket items. Meters and supplies, you see that's one of our largest ones there. Unfortunately, we're still having the issue where supplies can't keep up with the demand that we have, and so we've seen anywhere between a 10 and 18% increase due to inflation on that, straight across the board. We have travel and training. Good thing on that there is we have a lot more employees actually obtaining their certifications. They're doing a great job with that, so that's going to cover some of that. They have the continuing education hours that they're required to have. In collections, biological, and distribution. So right now, as of right now, we have 10 staff members, 10 team members actually, out of 16 that have certifications. Vehicle maintenance, that's gone up as well. Reason for that is we are purchasing a combination vehicle that was approved as well as a vac trailer, so we have 2 pieces of equipment that we have to continue that preventative maintenance on those. And of course, with the aging vehicles that we do still have, those require a little bit more PM as well. Software, we're increasing that line item. We're taking on a new software called iWork. That software is actually for backflow management, and what it's going to allow to do is move us, again, Charlie mentioned earlier about moving us into the 21st century. Basically, that's going to allow contractors to get this through their devices, enter in the information. It'll all allow us to generate reports in order to stay up with our DHEC regulations when we do our reports for them. In addition to that, if the system works as we expect it to work, there are some additional things that we'd like to add on there as well with that. We have the water tower maintenance, a little bit of increase there. That's due to CPI there. Maintenance of treatment, again, inflation. We're just trying to stay ahead of the trend on that. Chemicals, same thing. I mean, our budget is based off of inflation, really. We want to continue to give the services that we're doing. Our team members are doing an outstanding job. They continue to do it day in and day out with what we have to do it the right way. You know, our goal is to do it right the first time and not go back again. So with that being said, I think, I know that's why our budget is as great as it is right now, is because of the work that our team does.
So council, as you see there at the bottom, your total expenses are $6,990,453. And that puts you net to the good, $244,927. I am extremely pleased with how TCUD has performed from a budget standpoint, especially over, I'll say, probably the last 8 to 10 years. It has just continued to get better and better and better. A lot of that is due to Philip and Antonio and the team that they've put together. But also it's because of the growth of the system. The more customers we have, it's able to really sustain itself. I know there were years where we were doing budgets and TCUD's in the red and general fund was having to fork over dollars to the utility system. At this point, we've been able to build up the TCUD reserves to approximately $2 million. And that's, sitting there earning money. And that's fantastic. We've still got some sizable debt on there. As you will see, if you refer back to the debt schedule on TCUD, your biggest one is the SRF loan. That's the state revolving fund that we took out when we purchased the old TKK water service. The good thing is that's 1% and 2% money over 30 years. So it was basically free money for that first big rehab. And we're about to hopefully start the second big rehab with the ARP stuff. That'll be more on the collection part, or not the collection, the treatment side of things at those two treatment
And
plants.
SSOs are what, 1/20th of what they were?
If it's even that high.
Yeah.
If at all.
Yeah, if at
Like
all.
what an investment that was in the
Yes,
community.
100%, yeah. I mean, prior to us rehabbing the facility, the rains we got Sunday, we have no swim advisories all around the peninsula, no doubt in my mind. If we have a sewer overflow now, generally it's because of grease or root balls, more so than anything else. It's not because of the inflow and infiltration that we've been at,
And
that
baby
it was
wipes.
experiencing before.
And baby wipes. Hey, Charlie, too, I mean, honestly, you're really not 245,000 to the good. You're 600,000 to the good because they're paying a franchise fee this year for the first time.
Correct.
So,
Yes, sir.
I mean,
Yes, sir.
you're outperforming last year by $200,000.
Yes, sir.
Good job.
Your other big ones on there, you've got a couple that are going to come off in the 24-25 fiscal year. The loan on the booster pumps, the water booster pumps, and on the generators that we had installed. Those are two big ones. I mean, one's $61,872. The other one's $15,643. That'll come off the final payment in the 24-25 fiscal year. The next one after that is the water meters. When we replaced every single one of the water meters on the system with those remote read meters, which has made life amazing. That was, other than rehabbing the system, that water meter replacement is probably one of the best investments we've made. So extremely pleased with that TCUD budget. And what questions do y'all have of Antonio?
Thank you.
Efficient and effective, I like it.
There you go.
The sludge hauling number,
Mhm.
is that us or a contractor?
It's a contractor.
Why are we still using a contractor if we got a truck?
Well, that is, truck is totally different. The truck is not for that. You see, we did decrease by $5,000. We don't know what the truck is gonna do quite yet, so we can't decrease too much.
Okay.
The sludge hauling is more from the decanting from the wastewater treatment plants, totally different.
Yep.
Our truck is gonna be, doing some cleaning and wet wells and things of that nature. It will help out with some pumping and hauling if we do need it, but not necessarily with the sludge hauling itself.
Right.
Okay. All right.
There's a specific company that comes in and hauls that away, monthly?
Yep.
And they take it.
Bionomics.
Yep. Is it Bionomics? Who are we using?
No, it's not. I
You
lost
recall?
Well, Dayton is the gentleman that's doing it, takes it out to his farm. I
Is it
can't remember the
J?
name.
It's not
No,
J and G.
It used to
it's-
be L&L.
Yeah, L&L is who I was thinking
But
of.
it is not
yeah.
right, as of right now.
Liquid
Liquid
waste.
waste, thank you.
Okay, I got you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tanner.
Yeah.
We ain't got to the stormwater yet, but
Yeah. Huh?
I got a couple questions on stormwater when we get there.
I'll be your guy.
That'll be him. It definitely won't be Antonio.
Yeah.
Anything else on T-Cud?
Great job, guys.
Great. Thank you, Antonio.
Thank you. Thank you.
Stormwater, so before, and Joey's gonna tackle this one for us, but, I'll go ahead and, touch the revenues. So the uptick, there that you see on stormwater fees, some of that is growth and additional ERUs. But the biggest thing is it is anticipating a rate increase, that works out to $2 per month per house. So going, now, obviously, the stormwater fees aren't paid monthly, they're paid annually and are on everybody's tax bills. Most people aren't even going to see that, realize it, if you will. But it's,
No tax increases, but we figure out other ways to do it.
yes. And Joey will talk about the why for that as he gets into the expenses. But we are requesting that we go from 108 to 132 per ERU. Every residential house in the city pays one ERU. So it would be $132. Every commercial entity, one ERU equals 3,500 square feet of impervious surface. So if you're a commercial entity, it's for every $3,500 square feet of asphalt, sidewalk, rooftop that you have. So you think Walmart and that big store and the parking lot, they're not just paying one ERU. I'm wanting to say it's maybe 16 to 18 or more. Okay, 24 ERUs. So your commercial entities are definitely paying more, but they obviously are contributing more due to all the impervious surface that they have. So, again, on salaries and wages, as I mentioned earlier, it represents 30% of our public works, along with our stormwater manager, Ben, who's our environmental compliance officer. You've got his salary in there as well. So, Joey, if you will take council through the operational items.
Okay, so you're really going to see two items that stand out to discuss. First is vehicle maintenance. As we experienced this past fall, the leaf trucks were a challenge there. So we also have some of our older vehicles in the fleet under that as well. So that's why you're seeing
Dump trucks, front-end loaders.
That's why you're seeing the increase in that area just to keep up. So drainage maintenance and material, it's kind of a balancing number for the stormwater budget. And the reason why we've requested this fee increase is we have a long list of stormwater projects that need to be tackled. And some of them come with significant costs that we're managing that will, if back to our previous budget, one of the projects on Cebu Court that we're finalizing the plans for would capture the entire budget for this year. So that wouldn't allow us to move on. So this has been a long time coming with these fee increases. This helps us to go ahead and hopefully check a lot of those projects off the list and allows us to start shifting towards more proactive maintenance of the system that is in some areas nearing 40 years old. And some of the piping's recommended for 30. So there's definitely a need to take care of this aging infrastructure. So that's really the only uptick that we have. Be happy to take any of your questions. I answered it for you.
Efficiently and effectively.
That's how you do it, Dustin.
Good deal. Speaking of, let's invite Mr. Overton back to the table as we move into the events budget.
Do we have a cot for Bob? We need a cot for Bob.
We're in the home stretch now, I promise. We're definitely in the home stretch.
Hey, Bob, if he says I'm going to be long-winded, I'll hold it for you.
So your revenues on your events budget come from your vendor fees, both with just in our community events as far as like our concerts, that type thing, our fall festival revenues, event sponsors. As I told you, we still, when we're talking general fund, we still have some, we left some of that event sponsorship money in there. And then we go to hospitality tax and transfer over to go in to help us run those and put on those community events throughout the year. And then one new revenue item in there is the VIP seating that we do during the concerts, and that's the revenue coming in there. In the past, that has gone straight to our Catawba Park Fund, but now we're showing it in here. Now that we've got the park built. So your salaries, and then I'm going to turn it over to Dustin. That represents not just our event manager's salary, but also the overtime wages for our public safety and maintenance staff that work those events. We're able to pay for those using hospitality tax funds, but instead of showing a salary line item in H-Tax, we just put it in here. So that's where that $90,000 comes from. It's the event manager's full salary, plus your public works and park maintenance and your public safety, police and fire that are working those events on that overtime basis. So Dustin, I'm going to turn the events over to you, sir.
To steal a term, I'll try and be efficient and effective. However, I feel like I would do a disservice to our event manager, Caroline Hasty, if I don't get very excited about the event budget, because she is very excited about the type of events that she wants to do in TKK. With the budget, you'll see a lot of changing. There's not a ton of increasing, but there's some changing of where things are going. So one of the ones that you'll see is the holiday lighting. It's budgeted for $9,000. We're looking to completely purchase additional lighting for the hopefully waterfall area that we have now. We kind of pieced it together in the past. This is something we'd like to get that's long-standing, really stands out, better display for the holiday season. One of the things you'll see is a decrease of $16,000 from concert expense. That's actually just being moved into a new line item called Spring Festival. So currently, our working title for the Spring Festival is Best Dam Food Truck Event, with a play on the Catawba Dam. That event is kind of the brainchild of our event manager in focusing on starting off the spring. A focus on multiple musical acts, food trucks, food vendors, a real big way to start off the spring as then we transition into our summer concerts. What that event will do will essentially replace our April and May concerts and turn it into one big event. And then we'll still have our summer concerts as usual. That's your biggest change in this budget. Is to add that big springtime event for TK.
And Dustin, as I understand it, as you've explained it previous to this, it's not just a 6 to 10 kind of thing. It's starting earlier in the day. It's a longer event, right?
It's a longer event similar to the Catawba Fest. I believe we have it 10 to 7. I think is the working time right now.
Well, they say you can't drink all day if you don't start in the morning, so.
That is how the song goes.
And the Catawba Fest, we are marketing it more as your events or your crafts, arts and crafts, still music, still food trucks. but more of your arts and craft festival compared to your music and food festival for the spring festival. Hopefully get some good weather.
And we do have our first movie night coming up next month, correct?
Yes.
Up at Rundy.
Up at Rundy.
Going to try to do it again next year as well. We're doing Mario Brothers or something? Is
The
that
new
what it's
Mario.
Yeah. It's a good family event.
So no Barbie?
Not doing Barbie.
Maybe next year.
It's PG-13.
Oppenheimer.
We'll do Oppenheimer.
Top Gun Maverick.
I'm taking over.
There you go.
Let's get serious.
Yes.
I'm running for mayor of Kenland.
So what questions does council have for Dustin on our events?
So the decrease in concert expense, I didn't hear if the current strategy for the concerts, if that changes in any way.
No, so basically that is the concerts divided out. That would have been the allocation towards your April and May concert or summer concert, just moved into the spring festival line item.
Okay.
So basically, you'll have June, July, August up at Rundy. We'll do a concert in September. And I think we're planning that back out at Catawba Park.
Correct.
And then this one event, this new spring event, will be out at Catawba Park.
Okay.
One good benefit to doing that is it frees up a weekend out at Catawba Park, whether we need it for rec games or potentially being able to host another tournament that drives in more revenue.
Okay.
So we're gonna drop 6K on lights for the new waterfall?
It's a display.
Display.
Yeah, it's not just lights. It's
a water
trying to do
feature.
A more commercial holiday
But
display.
the answer is yes.
Imagine replacing the waving Santa with something big.
And then the rest of it is switching out
Just
the tree
if
lights
we grant it doesn't
with
mean they're gonna
LEDs.
spend it, but they probably will.
We're actually going to drop $9,000, just to be clear.
Well,
To increase in
three grand
six.
of that is in the tree lights, and replacing those with, replacing a chunk of those with the LEDs.
Got it.
As we've been doing each year.
Dustin, time to.
Efficiently, go take your seat.
Are there any other questions on events?
No.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Dustin.
All right, the last one, I'll be able to run through
Did
very
you just say
quickly.
last one?
This is the last one. It's the last one. So hospitality tax revenue envisioned at $399,220. Looking at a 4% increase there. As you've seen, we've got Cinnaholic will be opening up hopefully pretty soon. So looking forward to them coming.
Yeah, we
coming
said that,
in.
we
So
said that last year.
They've got a CO, they've got a DHEC permit, and they've got a hiring event scheduled. So we're anticipating them selling cinnamon rolls here soon. On your expense side, you see the transfer over to events that we just talked about of $176,746, a little more than what we did for the current year. And then you see the transfer over to Catawba Park, $65,000 to help offset that bond expense. Your Rundy Park lights, the loan or the lease payment on that, we've got 2 more payments this coming fiscal year, and then 24-25, and that one is paid off. When we talked with prior council, we envisioned that 24,617 once it's paid off, adding to the 65,000 on the transfer over to go towards that bond payment is what our plan was. Obviously, as that pays off, we'll have the conversation with that with council at that point in time. Everything else is status quo on that budget. Your maintenance and repairs to clubhouse, that's the HVAC, preventative maintenance and repairs. Anything on the exteriors of the building, we've got rotten wood in places, things like that. All that goes back into whether it's Glennon Center Clubhouse around that exterior, that type thing. Your marketing, we use that covers our hosting stuff for our website, as well as our the light pole banners that we do, and various other little small things that help us market the city out publicly. So And then the Visit York County, that is with, it used to be the Rock Hill York County Convention Visitors Bureau, that was renamed to Visit York County, and they help us market out our events and things like that. I know Caroline and Dustin have been talking with them and are continuing to talk to them about potentially bringing some more larger scale things to Catawba Park during the summer months when we're not having to use them for our rec stuff, to again help drive more revenue out of that facility. So, and that's your HTAX budget. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
The $100,000 maintenance and repair to the clubhouse.
Yes, sir.
I know we've done a beautiful job inside the Glennon Center and everything when we had the water problems and that
Correct.
kind of thing. Kudos to everybody that did that, and I think it looks great.
Yes, sir.
$100,000 maintenance to the clubhouse, would that include cleaning the gutters?
I mean, it could.
Probably should.
Okay.
Just saying, we got.
I know
trees
we've
growing
used
out.
it to repair gutters in the past, but we can do that too. I mean, usually where this starts is a call from either our golf management group or Shore Club group. Hey, there's an issue. And then there's a good chunk of that, the HVAC system for this building specifically. You basically have to be a rocket scientist to mess with that.
I'm glad we got one. Thanks, Tim.
Tim's got us a great contractor there. And then we've got a different contractor that does the smaller units around the clubhouse and things like that. But keeping those things running, they've got some age on them. Every now and again, we've got to replace one of them. You know, the goal is to not spend the $100,000, but we've been pretty successful at that $100,000 level over the last several years.
And we have some.
Yep.
Well, I know you guys walked around and looked, but like the railings are rusted and not painted and stuff like that. That
Yep.
would be nice to.
Yep.
The other one, the Catawba Park, 15 grand, is that gonna go to put some nets in between the fields so people don't get hit with balls?
Now, right, so we are looking at various options. We don't want it to look trashy.
Nope.
By installing more nets, but we want to put something in the areas where the parents are sitting. Fans are walking in we'll call them the concourse areas, between the dugouts and the concession stand. We are still exploring options there. The ones we've gotten back come at a very, very, very hefty price tag. But what you're seeing here, it's an increase of 15 grand, but that 65 grand is transferring over to general fund to go against the bond payment, along with the impact fees. But we are still, we're trying to get it done this fiscal year. But some of the options that have come back, it's like, good Lord, we'd have to take out a loan for some of it. But, yeah, it's wild. We really only have the issues and get the calls of concern during rec league play. The tournament folks, I guess, are just used to it. And they're more focused on it maybe, because that's what they're seeing everywhere they go. But we do recognize that it is a concern, and yeah, I'll applaud Dustin. He is working very diligently to come up with an option that doesn't detract away from how great the park looks, but also provides that additional safety measure. And we are still working on that. Anything else?
I have one question.
Sure.
On
Absolutely.
stormwater.
Okay.
Just, my question is, the additional fees, we're raising fees to pay for some maintenance and upgrades. Does that money have to come from the money you raise from stormwater fees?
The project specifically, yes.
Well, it doesn't, does it have to? No. But we try to keep all stormwater activities within the fees. I mean, we started off at $96 18 years ago, give or take. 5 years into that, the consultant that was hired to help us create that had us at 108, 5 years in. 10 years in, we were supposed to have been at 120, 125. And we've delayed those with prior councils, just not having the appetite to do those increases. But as Joey was saying, we've got some projects that we haven't been able to take on, some capital projects where you've got some failed galvanized steel pipe under roads that doesn't have bottoms, and now you've got roads starting to cave in a little bit, to where this is going to really help us get those taken care of, get those projects done. Several of them, we're going to have to contract them out, to be quite honest.
I guess my question though was, if we didn't have to raise the rate, could we pay for it with other funds we have?
Is well within council's purview, yes, sir.
I was just curious if there was a legality where,
No.
like T-Cud, we
No,
can't,
sir.
you know, or whatever.
No, sir.
Okay.
You can.
Okay, I was just curious, because we got $1 million in capital outlays, and we need 150 grand to fix some stormwater, and we're gonna raise the rates. So,
I think my one counter to that is, while these are the projects that exist today, the infrastructure is only going to get older.
Yeah.
And if we continue kicking the can on raising these fees, we may accomplish that now, but I can assure you, it's like plugging a finger in the dam. The holes are going to keep coming up over the years as the infrastructure continues to age.
The overwhelming majority of traditional TKK stormwater system is galvanized steel pipe that has been in the ground for, in some sections, 40-plus years, all right? We see a lot of it where it starts on the road and goes under the golf course, and we find sinkholes on the golf course. Like, where the heck did this come from? And you look at the pipe, and not only does it not have a bottom anymore, sometimes there's just no pipe. It's just a void where the pipe used to be. It's just, those things have just rusted out
chopping away at
over
it.
the years.
Yep.
Now, the good thing is, in traditional TKK, you've got, we call it RCP, reinforced concrete pipe. Yeah, you've got plastic pipe, double wall plastic pipe, things like that that have a much longer lifespan. But we've been chasing stormwater, specifically in traditional TKK, year after year. And so, okay, well, we've got 100 grand, so we'll do 100 grand as much as we can. And I agree with Joey 100%. While, okay, maybe there's some capital that we could reduce in general fund, and let's throw these stormwater projects in it. While that may work for 23, 24, what about 24, 25, 25, 26, and on and on and on? The stormwater is just, it's something that's not going to go away. It really isn't.
right. Well, I didn't think it was gonna go away. I'm just trying to think if there's a way not to raise the rates.
Understood. Understood. I mean, I would say, I mean, the good thing is it's a one-time fee that ends up on your tax bill, all right? I would say the majority of people, they pay those taxes in escrow on a monthly basis. Probably going to see a very marginal uptick there, very, very marginal. And they end up writing it off. From 108 to 132. So you're talking about $2 a month for the year. $2 per month, so $24 on the year. Yes, sir. So, I mean, we don't like to increase fees. I mean, we really don't. I think for the most part, we do have some new fees. As you've seen in the fee schedules, I will say most of those are in development services. And I would say the vast majority of that is being paid by your developers and builders on plan reviews and things of that nature, so it's not even going to impact the residents. We upped our Parks and Rec registration fees this current year. Prior to that, we hadn't touched those in quite some time, not looking to increase those. Utilities has really been where our fee increases have consistently been over the years. And if Rock Hill, Fort Mill aren't taking on increases, then we're not looking to increase, right? So what we have done every year is just pass those straight through, no more, no less, just pass those through so that we can continue to operate that facility. We've been at 108 now for what, probably 10 years? 10, 15, 10, 12 years at this point at the 108. We are definitely way behind the schedule, but we've got some things that are popping up now that we just really can't continue to wait on. And if we can get those knocked off, it's going to help us try to start, as Joey said earlier, try to start getting ahead of the curve on some of that stuff instead of, oh, wow, there's a sinkhole here, versus, hey, we've cambered this line. We need to replace this pipe next year. We need to replace these pipes the following year, and get more proactive in that versus reactionary, which is where we've been from the jump.
Okay, that was.
Yes, sir. Any other questions?
I'm not
budget-wise?
finding it now, but did I see in here somewhere that we're bringing back the dock fee?
It is, but it isn't, if you will. We're not doing a dock permit, if you will, but there is, Brian, do you want to, is Brian or Susan? Yeah, we had dropped that, but we are still incurring some expenses there, just because of how Duke does things. So it's just trying to recapture that cost.
That's right.
But I'll be honest with you, before Susan jumps in,
There ain't that many more docks to be built in
exactly,
DDK.
Yeah, which is exactly what I was going to say. So, yeah, how many people is this going to hit? Very, very
Right.
few, to be honest.
Yeah, the majority of dock permits that we get are for repairs to existing docks or things of that nature versus new docks. But because it's codified in the city code, we have to issue a permit. And in order to do that permit, it takes staff time to make sure that it meets the regulations that are in the city's code. So previously, dock fees were $350.
Yeah,
They
or
got cut to
75.
$75, which
Yep.
is our standard zoning permit fee.
Right.
So because it takes just staff time to be able to look at that dock application, make sure everything's in there that they're supposed to have to go to Duke. And then we actually, with a lot of contractors, I sit down with them and help them do it. Because it can get a little complicated, especially if they're dealing with Duke. Now, one of the issues right now with Duke is that they're going through with FERC is requiring that an Army Corps permit. Well, we're trying to get that changed. It's just going to take a little bit more time, but I think that's going to be corrected. So I don't anticipate a lot of docks coming through, but it's mostly, as I said, it's repairs to existing docks, it's shoreline stabilization, because usually because I have to also not only review the permit, I have to have somebody go out and inspect it after it's done.
What would the fee be?
Pardon? $75. It's our standard zoning.
Any other overall questions? Yes, sir.
Question going back to police, sorry, I meant to ask this at that time. 14% increase in salaries and wages, but 48% decrease in, anticipated decrease in group insurance and a decrease in workman's comp. Just, it doesn't make sense.
Insurance that we had, some family members now turned to single membership.
Okay.
It has decreased the premiums. And the workman's comp is just a reallocation of the workman's comp percentage. It changes every year.
Got it.
between police.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
And we, on the workers' comps, we're getting there's a refund.
We have we get audited, we pay a fee for an audit, and then we
Yep.
get a refund back. It's,
Yep.
happens every year.
Yeah. So we're doing a good job.
Efficient.
Mine goes up every year.
You got one guy that fell into shredders.
Did he fall?
Any other questions?
No, well done to all the department heads. Thank you. It's very clear.
Thank you. So we'll make the adjustments that were discussed here tonight, primarily what we talked about with Beach and Swim Center, and we'll have those ready very soon.
Got to get on yours and Dustin's schedule.
Yes, sir.
Pickleball?
Yes, sir. Just shoot me an email.
Thank you.
We'll get a time. Absolutely. And then Casey will push out our public hearing notification. At your August council meeting, we'll have a public hearing on the budgets as required by state law, along with later on in the meeting, consideration of a first read, so that you have the opportunity to do a second and final read in September. And we'll be ready for October 1st. Council, I know this was a very lengthy, long night, but I definitely appreciate your time, appreciate your questions. Staff, thank y'all for all your
Thank you.
work leading up to tonight, as well as your participation in the meeting tonight. Mayor, that's it.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Have a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Being here.
Thank you very much.